Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, beginning from Transformers. Chapter 76. At the last moment, Sun Cheng seemed to see the bad luck US fighter. The seat was ejected. It's a pity that the guy is too bad luck. The 4 AIM-120's formidable power are really good. The Energon radiant circle formed by the detonation almost at the same time. Even Sun Cheng has been blown to a turbulence under the falling of several hundred meters. One can imagine how likely that guy is to survive. However, he soon had no mood to take care of the other party. His attempt to avoid the 4 AIM-120 missiles and approaching the formation of the U.S. military squad, although temporarily let him escape, but made Sun Cheng once again caught in a new crisis. Shoo! Without the core reminder, only the auditory system can clearly capture dozens of combat missiles from all directions intensively attacking him. The AIM-9 Sidewinder combat missile used by the U.S. military is a short-range air missile. It uses infrared homing guidance. The detection range and sensitivity have been greatly improved. The use of laser fuse has improved the accuracy of the explosion point and has the ability to fight at close range. It is also a very difficult missile that can operate in all directions, all altitudes and all weathers. In particular, Sun Cheng, at this time the closest U.S. fighter launching the Rattlesnake, had a visual distance of no more than 1 kilometer, and the speed of the Rattlesnake exceeded Mach 2.5. Therefore, once the missile was launched, it had flown to a distance of less than 200 meters from him. Knowing that he was already in a very dangerous state at this time, Sun Cheng was not too panicky. Compared with 2 AIM-120 series air missiles that could seriously hurt him, the Sidewinder explosion unit was much smaller, and his body armor, the strength is far better than that of humans fighters, so eating 2 or 3 pieces will also result in at least 1 injured end. Moreover, this infrared-guided missile is very vulnerable to interference. Although he is not equipped with IR jammer, but the core can also simulate infrared interference function. At the moment, Sun Cheng extended his left palm with 5 fingers, and emitted a series of infrared radiation waves to the missile that hit the face. After briefly disturbing the Rattlesnake's trajectory, he immediately summoned M61 Vulcan and raised his right arm. Aiming is a crazy shot. Boom, boom. The successive explosions in the air made in midair Sun Cheng resemble a sailing ship in a huge wave, shaking left and right, blown by the force of angry nature. Seeing that he was about to fall to the ground, he relaunched his transform back Reaper drone form, and suddenly jumped up to the ground, so he reapplied and aimed at AF-16 Fighting Falcon chasing his most fierce. After the adjustment of Allspark before, a rapid-fire machine gun of Sun Cheng within the body has been decomposed back into metal atoms and merged into his mechanical body, while another was originally in the drone form. The rapid-fire machine gun on the wing was adjusted to the nose according to his idea, which was convenient for his close dog fight. Sun Cheng made a sudden adjustment close to the ground, less than 100 meters, which obviously made the pilot who chased his most fierce F-16 Fighting Falcon unexpectedly, although he also experienced to send a cover signal to the nearby wingman, while pulling with him, raise the height and shoot Sun Cheng with an aircraft gun, trying to distance him from getting close. The early version of the F-16 Fighting Falcon has good close combat performance. Although it is not worse than the F-15 Eagle and F-14, it also has few opponents in the world. However, with the development of the times, destroying the enemy above mid-range has already become one of the development strategies of the air forces of various countries. This has led to the F-16 Fighting Falcon, which is newly equipped by the U.S. military, becoming more and more dependent on various air missiles. The body will be sad. Since Sun Cheng had attacked the U.S. military base with Barricade and Onslaught, he considered that he might have another fight with the U.S. military in the future, so he had carefully studied the relevant countermeasures. For this reason, he has read a lot of military experts from various countries on the internet. The argument information also has a deep understanding of the U.S. military, especially air power. Rapid-fire machine gun. The efficiency of close-range dogfight is significantly higher than that of the large-caliber M100 Vulcan at a distance of less than 61 meters of spinning space, not to mention the Allspark strengthening weapon, a round of burst shot, easy. The cockpit glass made of high-grade synthetic resin material in the cockpit of F-16 Fighting Falcon was directly destroyed, and the pilot was directly killed. Hey! After the pilot of the single-pilot F-16 Fighting Falcon was killed, he lost control and slammed into a wingman outside of the several meters. The violent explosion blew the Sun Cheng mechanical body, and soon stabilized, he again speeding up, I-8 a round of aircraft gun and fired a strong shot into another F-16 Fighting Falcon's close body, forcing it to close his dogfight. This is undoubtedly a very good method of restraint. His dreaded air missile U.S. fighter can't shoot it. After all, the probability of accidental launch is very high, and he can also maximize the flexibility of his mechanical body. The cockpit glass of modern fighters is very poor in ballistic resistance. Most of them are special glass made of resin materials, which can resist bird attacks, but they are very blind in the face of human, own aircraft gun, not to mention Sun Chang's very insidious special approach. Pilot in the sniper cockpit. After eliminating 4 or 5 F-16 Fighting Falcons in this way, this U.S. Air Squadron has completely reacted. While adjusting the flight schedule, the original 3 flight escorts were completely dispersed, no matter what Sun Chang tried to approach the F-Falcon. 16 Fighting Falcon, he will be exposed to other fighters' fire. Apart from this, there are actually 2 F-2 Fighting Falcon, which are obviously the latest model. When they were almost approached by Sun Chang, they suddenly increased their speed to supersonic speed. It is necessary to know that the speed increase of most fighters requires a preparation process. Although it is no more than the newly equipped F-22, the new F-16 only maintains a short supercruise, but due to the absolute suppression of speed, the Sun Chang mechanical body has been tilted by thousands of bullets in a short period of time, more than half of which come from those 1,000 newest F-2 Fighting Falcon. Fortunately, the bullets under the human 40mm caliber can cause little damage to Sun Chang's mechanical body. Although it also left countless small cracks on his mechanical body due to the quantity, he did not let him suffer a big loss. Unable to achieve further results, all of a sudden, the 4 F-4 Fighting Falcon, which is besieging him, are speeding up to prepare to distance themselves. Are there no bullets? Sun Chang can't help eyes shined. The M16 Vulcan aircraft gun equipped on the US F-61 Fighting Falcon is the same type as he equipped. It's just that unlike the M61 Vulcan that his Allspark transformation can directly draw from energon from his spark, the US military's F-16 Fighting Falcon aircraft Gatling gun has only 4,500 full warehouses. He has been waiting for this moment since just now. Now that he sees the US fighter's aircraft Gatling gun run out, they try again to open the distance and use the air missile to deal with himself. Where can Sun Chang make them happy? Decepticon's mechanical body is far superior to the materials used by F-16 Fighting Falcon. Even though his fastest speed is not as good as F-16 Fighting Falcon, he can maintain the strength of the mechanical body in supercruise state for a long time. This led to the fact that once the F-16 Fighting Falcon was approached by him, except for the 2 new fighters that could perform supercruise in a short time, the rest of the old F-2 Fighting Falcon could not get rid of him in a short time. During this time, it was enough for Sun Chang to complete the anti-killing. Once again in the drone form, a set of infrared interference rays were released, which prevented him from approaching and launched several Sidewinder missiles. After Sun Chang accelerated to approach 2 fighters, the M61 Vulcan under his belly was cruelly illuminated, directly fired 2 F-16 Fighting Falcon in midair to explode. Soon, he quickly approached another nearby F-16 Fighting Falcon, and once again used the rapid-fire machine gun at the nose to directly kill the pilot. Seeing that he could not be a threat to him, he is now being hunted down by his anti-guests. The few remaining F-16 Fighting Falcons quickly seemed to have reached a consensus, and hurriedly shot all the combat missiles at him, forcing Sun Chang to stop and cope. After the disturbance detonated, Sun Chang was looking at it, and there were only a few mosquito-like spots far away from the sky. After escaping from the chase range of Sun Chang, the F-16 Fighting Falcon shot a few AIM-120 medium-range air missile with hatred, and it seems that he still has some thoughts about him. Unfortunately, without the containment of these F-16 Fighting Falcons, it is not difficult to avoid these missiles without intelligence. Sun Chang was only an acceleration dive, and it was only 2 meters away from the ground. With the excellent control of Decepticon mechanical body, he suddenly fiercely flies up again at a 3-degree angle. Soon, a violent serial explosion sounded behind him. The surging heat wave rolled in the sky, and after Sun Chang stabilized his body, he didn't care about the radar waves that could be captured faintly. He followed Bumblebee's footprint and continued to Mission City fly away. It was held so long by the aviation squadron that until Sun Cheng entered Mission City, they could no longer capture the silhouette of Bumblebee. It's strange, how can't I lock the frequency of Allspark anymore? In desperation, he had to contact Forerunner's side first and inquire about his situation. Master, Forerunner soon replied, the battle here is over. Onslaught has hit a silver Autobot. Optimus Prime was also injured. Autobot retreated, fled in the direction of Mission City. Megatron has chased first, it's past. We're also rushing. This was what he expected. Although it was only a brief sighting before, Megatron's battle strength really surprised Sun Cheng, but it could be under siege of Autobot leader Optimus Prime with several elite soldiers. It also doesn't fall into a disadvantageous position. After Onslaught they arrived, Megatron reversed the stalemate in one fell swoop, and it was not surprising to defeat the Autobot team. Just when I heard that a silver Autobot was injured, Sun Cheng a thought flashed through the mind. He remembered that there was only one silver soldier Jazz in the Autobot team, one of the second in command of Autobot leader Optimus Prime. That guy, the battle strength may be slightly inferior to Bumblebee, but it should be at the same level as Barricade. And so on. He finally touched the current Onslaught, even if he is still not Starscream's opponent, but it should not be much worse. Understood. Don't have to wait for Onslaught, you come here first. After letting Forerunner rush over to support himself, Sun Cheng thought about it and reissued the coordinates of Mission City to Blackout. If he knew he could cope with the team of US fighters before, he would never inform Blackout. However, since he had been told that he could not hide the matter, he would not be able to conceal it in the future. Sun Cheng still simply took it anyway. Anyway, Allspark over there, even he felt that he got it by himself. The probability is very small. During the search, Sun Cheng gradually approached the urban area. With the core function fully open, he relied on the speed advantage to carefully scan the frequency of Allspark back and forth above the sky, but he could never find it. He had already begun to wonder if he had made a mistake. Bumblebee and they might have taken the opportunity to escape in other directions. Suddenly, the core scanned several special frequencies that could not be matched in his database. From the analysis of fluctuations, it seems that it is also Decepticon. Is it Starscream? Sun Cheng flew to the newly emerging Decepticon fluctuations, and Sun Cheng was a little nervous. Megatron didn't know where it suddenly appeared, and that Allspark, which could become so small, had disrupted his plan. Now if I give it to Earth for several decades, no one knows how many trump cards Starscream is in his pocket, and the rest is really nothing to do with him. Sun Cheng even feels with his own strength, he can already leave early. Uneasy, it didn't take long for Sun Cheng to fly to the place where the Decepticon fluctuations he caught came. What? Landing on the top of a human building and looking down at the violent Decepticon silhouettes that are creating panic on the street, Sun Cheng couldn't help but stagnate his eyes. What he saw were some newborn Decepticons that I had never seen before. The data returned by the core scan in the past showed that these guys all own Spark, but not to mention that compared with his Spark, it is the strongest one. Decepticon, the energon fluctuation emanating from its Spark is even worse than the level 2 core of Forerunner within the body. How is this going? Suspicious in my heart, Sun Cheng scanned all around for a while. After failing to capture more frequencies, this jumped from the tall building and fell directly to the largest and most joyous Decepticon before. Shoo shoo, this is Decepticon that each and everyone looks half a head taller than Sun Cheng now. He is green and holds a weapon similar to a rocket launcher. At this time, he is shooting a missile with a frenzy everywhere. Sun Cheng frowned and looked at this Decepticon, which was unreasonable, and stepped forward to kick him to the root of the corner, and then stepped on his chest and asked, "Now, answer my question. Just now, has Autobot passed here?" Hiss. Answering him was a chaotic and disorderly roar of roar. Obviously this guy did not at all form a complete thinking circuit. Seeing that he raised his weapon, he seemed to want to shoot himself. Sun Cheng couldn't help but get angry. In his eyes, he had used the tricks that Starscream and Soundwave had used against him, using his own spy core to send. A terrible stream of data directly invaded his core. Without the slightest resistance, he easily broke into the core of this guy. Unfortunately, what Sun Cheng saw was a set of chaotic and disorderly data. Fortunately, there is still some information available. Soon after recovering the intrusion data, Sun Cheng looked thoughtful on his face, Allspark's escort team only separated here a few minutes ago. Bumblebee seemed to support Optimus Prime. Human soldiers followed up in a dozen infantry vehicles. Under the protection of the tank, he escorted a boy named Sam to the barracks on the outskirts. It seemed that he was going to let him leave here by aircraft. Allspark was dropped here once, and automatically radiated a radiant wave. No wonder he sees some chaotic and violent Decepticon, which turned out to be some human machines converted by Allspark. No wonder all of them own Spark, but they are all cannon fodder. After glancing at this newborn Decepticon, which was completely controlled by him and lying quietly on the ground, he no longer resisted. Sun Cheng suddenly a thought flashed through the mind, quickly wrote a control program and instilled it into his core. He immediately responded to this. It is estimated that the everyone who sent a few rifle grenade from human gave a command, go, avoid human sight, leave Mission City, and go to my base. Seeing his dull nodded, and then got up and left, Sun Cheng felt uneasy, and suddenly received a message from Forerunner that he had already arrived in Mission City. At the moment, he informed Forerunner to come to himself, and at the same time he was instructed with him, take him away from here and go back to my base first. Pay attention to concealment on the way, avoid human cities as much as possible. With the protection of Forerunner, I must be able to safely bring back this unexpected gain. After arranging all this, Sun Cheng immediately Incarnation Reaper drone again, wings raised moved towards the human base outside the suburbs. Even with his strength, the chance of getting Allspark has become increasingly slim, but until the last moment, Sun Cheng was not willing to let it go. Although the city of Mission City in United States is only a new city developed after World War II, but because of its special background, the city has been a gang of stand in great numbers and villains from the beginning since its establishment. The private attitude of holding weapons has created this international casino with heaven and hell. Because of the constant murders, hatreds, and gangster troubles, the state of Nevada government has ordered a National Guard resident in Mission City suburbs to suppress the chaos. The 50th Aviation Company and the Air Force 119th Space Wing team that Sun Cheng had previously detected after being transferred to Mission City, the temporary base is the National Guard station. After the accidentally captured newborn Decepticon transformed by Allspark learned the information of Allspark, Sun Cheng quickly left the city and flew to the base of National Guard in the southwest desert of Mission City. Not long ago, in order to invade Sector 7, Onslaught had carried out a round of long-range artillery bombardment here. Although he believed his strength, Sun Cheng did not completely let his mind down. The 119th Aviation Company from National Guard is that's all. According to his previous investigation, this unit was adjusted in the state, so it was almost completely stationed in Mission City before being attacked. However, it is not easy to say that the United States Air Force 30th Space Wing Team, who was ordered to be transferred here, has higher requirements for the Air Force combat aircraft than the helicopter. In his previous investigation, he only heard of a 30th Space affiliate. Wing's subordinate squadron was stationed in Mission City, while the rest were temporarily placed in another larger military base nearby. Area 51. Thinking of the main force of the United States Air Force 30th Space Wing Team, it may have been saved, Sun Cheng felt a jump in his heart. The world-famous United States, Area 51, is located in Mission City, but it is now classified as Lincoln County, which no longer belongs to the state of Nevada but belongs to the federal government of the United States. This is not the secret base used by the United States government to study aliens, as the outside world has legend. After all, Sector 7 is. According to information obtained by Sun Cheng's invasion of the National Defense Internet, it was one of the first test sites selected by the United States government in the state of Nevada for nuclear testing. Later, after making adjustments, the Department of Defense was converted into a new aircraft research and test site. United States military not only attracted technical staff to study more advanced military weapons here, but also from Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Thor, etc. The state-of-the-art aircraft and missiles developed by state's aerospace tycoons were mostly secretly tested here at the earliest. Therefore, Area 51 should be one of the most heavily guarded military bases in the United States. From the ground radar station to the underground sensors to the dense anti-missile system deployed in the surroundings, all of them prove the importance of the United States military here. This is one thing that Sun Cheng is more worried about. Judging from the previous conflicts, Autobot doesn't know when it will actually join forces with American. If Allspark is really sent to Area 51, where there are strict guards, Autobot will help contain Megatron, Onslaught, and Blackout. It is not always possible to make a joint attack. Between the troubles, a few smoke pillars were faintly discernible. Sun Cheng carefully distinguished the place where the smoke pillar that was going to be located was the base of the National Guard that he was going to, and quickly threw all the complicated thoughts. After reaching his head, he flew towards it. Looking down at an altitude of 10,000 meters, the ground is faintly discernible, like a trivial ant running and crawling. Sun Cheng did not capture the electromagnetic waves emitted by the radar, looking thoughtful in his heart. It seems that before entering Sector 7, the wave of Onslaught's raid effect was out of the ordinary. I am afraid that most of the forces originally stationed in this base were destroyed. He was about to lower some height, and suddenly felt his mechanical body seemed to be swept by a wave, and then the core seemed to be locked by something. Sun Cheng quickly responded, knowing that he was locked by a certain robotic organisms, and he was hovering in the air and warned carefully. About 30 to 40 seconds later, accompanied by a sonic boom in the distance, a shape different from any aircraft on Earth, a significantly larger aircraft appeared in the core scanning range of Sun Cheng. Megatron. Sun Cheng slightly sighed in relief, but soon after the restlessness was raised again. Now, tell me, where is Allspark? Almost next second appeared beside him, Megatron orbiting around him, with a low voice still carrying the undispersed hostility. Lord Megatron, Allspark should have been brought to this base by human. I was just entangled by a team of human fighters. I found it all the way after the battle. He replied anxiously. Human did not know what means were used, and Sun Cheng has been unable to catch the fluctuation of Allspark since just now. Obviously, he was worried that this answer would not satisfy Megatron. But to his surprise, Megatron didn't mention anything after hearing the answer. He dived directly and rushed down. Only when there was a distance meter from the ground, he suddenly saw that his transform back robot mode fell, and then the ground was a blast of explosive sounded quickly. At first sight, Sun Cheng only fell in love with Allspark and then came to the ground together. Just landed, he was greeted by a burst of shells. The shell was not shot at him, but the place where Sun Cheng landed was wrong. After hurriedly rolling forward and avoiding a shell that would fall near the place where he landed, Sun Cheng followed the orbit where the shell was fired and quickly found several M60 Patton tanks outside of several hundred meters. National Guard. The regular army of the U.S. military has already eliminated this second-generation tank and started to equip the updated M1 Abrams tank. This gadget can now be seen in domestic use. It must be National Guard. He tried to call out the M61 Vulcan, lifted an M60 Patton tank out of several hundred meters, and it was a round of fire. The sound continued for 60 rounds of shooting, before he saw that the tank exploded in a burst of fire. This efficiency, although Allspark strengthened M61 Vulcan formidable power is already good, but Sun Cheng just glanced at random, it also broke a Megatron of M60 Patton tank, was originally very satisfied the new weapon suddenly looked a little bit off. Obviously, Sun Cheng they came very timely. Soon after the explosion in the base began to sound, a variant of the Black Hawk helicopter, Pave Hawk, roared from afar. Shoo shoo. The team of Pave Hawk had not yet approached, and they had locked Sun Cheng and Megatron, especially the latter, shot 10 arrays of Hellfire anti-tank missiles, roaring and flying towards them. Disgusting insect. Megatron raised his arms impatiently and raised his hand to directly hit a Pave Hawk into the air. He rammed into the base, and no defender or weapon could resist his advancement. It didn't take long for him to see him. Team familiar faces, isn't it from Sector 7's escort Allspark team? Finally let me find you. Megatron grinned, showing a sinister smile. He looked down from the top and was seeing the team of American soldiers with vigilance and uneasiness, protecting a man and a woman, 2 youngsters in the middle, where the young boy was holding a tiny cube in his arms, looking at the shape. Isn't it Allspark? I just don't know what the situation is. The Allspark is like a stasis program. At this time, there is no trace of energon fluctuations. No wonder Sun Cheng immediately entered the mission city. The ability to sense it. After evading a few Hellfire missiles, Sun Cheng became a Reaper drone and jumped into the sky to go straight to the Pave Hawk, who didn't know where to fly from. The previous fight with the F-16 Fighting Falcon team has given him a lot of air combat experience. Now he comes to deal with these helicopters that are far less flexible than the F-16 Fighting Falcon, but he has not spent much time on him. There was a lot of fire in the middle. Lord Megatron, I just received a message from Sir Blackout. He met Sir Onslaught, who was fighting Autobot on the way before. Autobot has evacuated. He struggled with Onslaught and Optimus Prime for a while and failed to leave him. After a while, they should almost be here. Landing next to Megatron, Sun Cheng reported to him. Blackout. He also came to Earth. Hearing the name of Blackout, Sun Cheng unexpectedly felt that Megatron's tone had also eased a lot. Obviously, he was still very satisfied with this subordinate who had always been faithful. However, the next second he saw Megatron looking up inadvertently, moving towards a certain direction above the sky, and his eyes were soon filled with fear, anger and fierce light. Sun Cheng looked down his line of sight, where the sky was silent and nothing could be seen. After comparing the data in the memory, Sun Cheng did not find any other country's satellites passing there, and his heart could not help but wonder, there is nothing there, what is this guy looking at? What is it that makes Megatron a face of fear? Suddenly, he thought flashed through the mind. Wait, that direction is Moon. Megatron, fearful of don't tell me, is Starscream. When Sun Cheng was puzzled by 100, Megatron had regained his indifference. He quickly walked towards Sam and the others, threatening with Earth language, give me that Allspark, boy, otherwise everyone here will have to dead. Boom! A laser shot suddenly hit Megatron, and the explosion made his mechanical body unstable, falling over 2 meters away. It's Autobot. Some distracted Sun Cheng found out that a yellow Autobot outside of several meters was holding a plasma cannon and rushed towards Megatron. Behind him, a silver Pontiac sports car also rushed towards Megatron. Isn't it Jazz? As Forerunner had previously reported, Jazz obviously suffered a not a light injury. His car body is now covered with many cracks, some thin and small, some long and thick, and it can be seen that they must have passed before a hard fight. Go away, trash. Megatron took a shot, and after standing, he saw Bumblebee rushing towards him at a glance, his eyes brighter. After calling out his steel spike-like weapon, he didn't know how he made it. It actually made it look like a steel whip. Fiercely aimed at a human Humvee next to him, and the horror power immediately pumped it out. It flew up and crashed into Bumblebee. Bumblebee did not dodge, or dare not to dodge at all, because after seeing him coming, the human who escorted Allspark had quickly moved towards him. It can be said that as long as he dared to dodge, the vehicle was Humvee that Megatron flies away will inevitably hurt human. Megatron looked towards Bumblebee with sarcasm in his eyes. Obviously he had too much dealing with Autobot, and he was too clear about the character of the old rivals. Boom! Bumblebee raised his hand with a plasma cannon, smashed the Humvee, and then stood firmly in front of human to cover them, allowing the fragmented splash to keep slamming on his mechanical body. The crisis has not been lifted, and even more terrifying is Megatron. This guy is indifferent, not to mention that the opponent is still Autobot. Sun Cheng saw that he was taking advantage of Bumblebee's action to protect human, and he was approaching him with a steel whip, and then he saw him slamming the steel whip fiercely, and he was a whip against him. Throw away. Paw! Along with the peculiar sound of cracking metal, Bumblebee was pumped high and flew directly away from the meters. Such a high-quality planet, but let these small reptiles of human occupy, he sneered and turned the steel whip into a muzzle again, aiming at Bumblebee's head and preparing a shot. The result was, you are willing to fall. To fight for these lowly reptiles, then die with them. Come on, Jazz roared, and after quickly transforming back to robot mode, regardless of being seriously injured, he slammed into Megatron. Pong! After eating him with a full blow, Megatron's hand shook and the muzzle could not help but shifted down a bit, although the gun still popped out and hit Bumblebee's lower body, bringing his whole leg. The roots were crushed, but at least he saved his life. However, Jazz is not so lucky. Angrily, Megatron retracted the cannon, and stepped heavily on Jazz, which was only as tall as his thigh. Are you capable of this? Megatron. Even if Megatron stepped on his feet, unable to move even a little bit, Jazz still chatted to him, taunted. Come on, little bastard, how do you want to die? Megatron sneered and stooped to grab Jazz, asking him by holding him in front of him. I think you will be killed by Optimus Prime. Jazz just broke away from his feet and immediately summoned his solar photon gun, which was a few shots in a row on his cheek and head. This action obviously angered Megatron, who slammed him down on the ground with an angry hand, immediately grabbed his arm with one hand, and held Jazz's thigh with the other hand, lifting him up to in front of myself. You will never see that day. Along with a cold and ruthless sentence, he violently tore a burst of tears, and with a burst of crackle, the rays of light in Jazz's eyes suddenly dimmed. Autobot soldier, Jazz is dead. No, Ironhide and Ratchet, who had just arrived, witnessed the scene where Jazz was torn by Megatron. Sun Cheng was also taken aback by Megatron's brutality. Although he was in short contact with Jazz, the two sides were in hostile faction, but he also knew that Jazz's battle strength was definitely above himself. Seeing such a powerful Autobot soldier, it was so dead in front of him, and if Sun Cheng remembered correctly, he should still be the Cybertronian who died in the first place. For a moment, while shocked by the strength of his affiliated leader of the Decepticons, Megatron, Sun Cheng didn't know how, and suddenly felt some complex emotions that could not be explained clearly. Optimus Prime is only slightly slower than two people, and came to this base soon after. With the arrival of Autobot, fierce battles resumed. Megatron. At a glance, I saw Megatron's body. Jazz's corpse that broke into 2.5. Optimus Prime's voice was distressed except for his anger. He was already outraged. Since the fall, Megatron reinvigorated his weapon indifferently and shot him at each other for a round. However, Decepticons seemed to prefer close combat to using weapons. No, the two fired each other for a while, and found that they could not be hit by each other. They recovered their weapons in a tacit agreement, and slammed into each other. Pong! On the solid concrete floor of the base, cracks suddenly appeared. You are not my opponent, Optimus Prime. Megatron looked towards old rivals with a sneer, even though Optimus Prime had exhausted all his strength, but his legs still suppressed by his overbearing power gradually bent. I fight for justice, fight for faith, so fearless. Optimus Prime glared at him in the least, with a firm expression on his face. Boom! Not far away, Bumblebee's plasma shot hit Megatron's back and staggered him for a while. Optimus Prime saw a rare opportunity, and immediately violently threw him out. After a little tumbling in the air, Megatron transformed back to flying form and looked angrily towards Bumblebee with his face full of grief and anger. Little reptile, you will be the next. He glanced coldly at Bumblebee after being unable to move even a little bit after breaking his leg. He was about to leave the Optimus Prime that could not be solved in a short period of time to clean up him first. He didn't want to be inspired by Jazz's death at this time. An angry Ironhide and Ratchet had rushed forward. The former raised his hand to Megatron as a round of missiles, and Ratchet quickly blocked in front of Bumblebee. Megatron, you have made too many kills. Optimus Prime jumped abruptly from the ground, easily grasping Megatron hovering in the air above several meters. He tried to roll over and climb Megatron's back, but Megatron was quickly thrown out in annoyance. In the distant sky, with a burst of hurricane-like noise, a CH-53-shaped heavy transport helicopter roared towards here at a speed no lower than Mach 1. Is it my reinforcements? There was a burst of cheers in the base, but the few Autobots that were entangled with Megatron quickly changed their faces. It's Blackout, Ironhide roared, raised the rocket launcher in his hand, and raised his hand at the small spot 2 kilometers away, which was a round of flying. Explosions quickly rang in the sky one after another, but after the smoke that accompanied the explosion dissipated, a silver steel giant, apparently unharmed, waved a spinning propeller with one hand and fell inside the base. Lord Megatron, here I come. It's Blackout. Just right, Blackout. Upon seeing the arrival of the powerful assistant Blackout, Megatron's face was full of joy, and he immediately looked towards the zone where he was far away from the battle with Autobot, still chasing the human defender and shooting Sun Cheng. Take Allspark. Megatron obviously knows Sun Cheng's battle strength. There is no Autobot here that he can handle. It is enough for Blackout to cooperate with his two people to cope with the Autobot team, so he gave Sun Cheng this command. The arrival of Blackout has made the balance of victory start to fall to Decepticon. It is estimated that when Onslaught comes, no one can stop their victory. Yes, so Sun Cheng was very complied, and after jumping back to transform back Reaper drone form, he immediately summoned the M61 Vulcan under his belly, aiming directly at the frightened Sam and the others. Are we going to die? Embracing the Allspark cube, Sam with a pale face shuddered, but he didn't know who he wanted to ask. The heavy unrest is fermenting in the base. Michaela looked towards Bumblebee with some worry. She is grateful for this Autobot soldier who has protected herself many times. William and Robert from Special Forces are also full of uneasiness in their hearts, but compared to Sam and Michaela, who are still high school students, they are trained and experienced soldiers in the field, although they are uneasy but they can't show it. Sam. Captain William squeezed the gun in his hand. Trust your alien friend, believe our country. We have already sent out the signal of the attack, and persevere for a while, the reinforcements will come. Captain. The black soldier Sergeant Robert swallowed spittingly, reminding him to look above the sky. There, the black demon, it's coming again. Speaking of Decepticons, the soldiers who fled all the way from Sector 7 to Mission City were most afraid that they also had the chance to see all the Autobot Megatrons just by looking at their size. But what scared them the most was that the one above the sky could be transformed into Reaper drone forms Decepticon. Not to mention its 2 feats of breaking into Sector 7, just tracing them all the way from Hoover Dam to here. The American soldier who died in the Decepticons' hands has no 2 to 300 and 500 to 100, which undoubtedly has been instilled with 0. The United States soldiers of the casualty strategy created a deep psychological shadow. Captain William looked up subconsciously and heard that Decepticon jumped into the air and became the Reaper drone form again. At the same time, he turned the muzzle and flew towards them. How to do? Sam asked in horror, holding the fingers of Allspark cube widened by him. Hurry up with the stinger, Captain William subconsciously shouted. It was Sergeant Robert's wry smile that answered him. I took a few when I evacuated from Sector 7, but I used it against Megatron before. Now, we have only the last few RPGs. It's almost impossible to want to hit the obviously very flexible Decepticon with RPG. The roaring bullets quickly rang, and the explosions fell densely around several Humvee and infantry vehicles hiding in the crowd. What to do? Haven't the reinforcements yet arrived? Some soldiers have started crying. Captain William and Sergeant Robert looked at each other helplessly, and both saw the despair in each other's eyes. Their weapons could not reach each other, but the other side's very similar M61 Vulcan weapon bullets could penetrate the Hummer with only one shot, and even the armor of the infantry vehicle could not withstand such a high-efficiency round of fire. When I was panicking, a strange voice suddenly came out from the communication equipment in the fierce infantry car. Gorgeous cat calling the base, gorgeous cat calling the base, our team of fighters is close to the base, please help us mark battle targets. The elite air force from Area 51 finally arrived on the battlefield. Above the sky, with the dense fighter formation coming from the roar, the survivors hiding in the 4 places in the base all gave out amazing cheers. It's our aircraft. Captain William laughed excitedly. Sergeant Robert quickly picked up the communicator and took the initiative to call for support. Ground calls gorgeous cat. Ground calls gorgeous cat. There is a very important person here, you need to provide priority protection. This statement is true, not to mention the friendship between Sam and Autobot, which is enough to make him a link between human and those alien creatures. At this time, Autobot has handed over the important Allspark to him for safekeeping, even if it is only seen as the temporary custodian of Allspark. Calling him an important figure is not deceptive. Gorgeous cat received. I have transferred to the rear. Arrange helicopter evacuation for you. Please release the smoke as soon as possible, and provide your team with your position. Received. We are about to release green smoke. Provide my location. If you find a Reaper drone above the base, be sure to destroy it. Repeat, we are about to release green smoke. Provide my location. If you find one above the base, a Reaper drone, please destroy it. Gorgeous Cat is one of the subordinate squadrons from 19th Air Force. As the resident guard force stationed in Area 51, although it is still equipped with the F-15E Strike Eagle, but this fighter is McDonnell Douglas Corporation in F-15 Eagle based on a targeted transformation model. While preserving its powerful air combat capabilities, McDowell also strengthened its ability to attack the ground, as said to be the best in the world. Two-seater supersonic fighter bomber, it is not an exaggeration. Obviously, the U.S. military has been informed that not long ago, the Team SF-16 Fighting Falcon Squadron from National Guard faced Sun Chang, poor performance in order not to repeat the previous tragedy, except for the transfer from Peterson Air Force Base in state of Colorado. A team has received 6 of the latest F-22 Raptor team to come to support, the Guard of Area 51 as the main force to come to support. To suffer. When he saw a F-15 Eagle flying over the sky, Sun Cheng's heart suddenly sank. Because there were evil supplements before, now he is quite familiar with the Air Force weapons and equipment of various countries. Not long ago, he had a fight with the F-16 Fighting Falcon of the United States National Guard. He almost failed to cope with it, not to mention the United States Air whose battle strength is still on the F-16 Fighting Falcon. Force headed the main force. Unlike the F-16 Fighting Falcon, which focuses more on multi-use, the F-15 Eagle has more powerful horsepower and load capacity. At the same time, it is also a heavy fighter designed specifically for high-altitude interception and combat operations. So it has with excellent maneuverability and air combat capabilities, looking at the world, except for the F-2 Raptor that has only been equipped with the U.S. military in the past 2 years, few other fighters can suppress the F-22 Eagle. Sun Cheng's proud mobility is not worth mentioning in front of the F-15 Eagle. This fighter has a theoretical speed of up to Mach 2.5. Even if it can use a shorter time than F-16 Fighting Falcon in combat, it raises the speed to Mach 2 or more. However, the conflict was not due to the reluctance of one party, so it was revealed. Sun Cheng soon captured the electromagnetic waves of multiple fire control radars. Hateful. After catching 4 AIM-7 Sparrow missiles and coming straight at them, Sun Cheng could only give up the Allspark escort squad and dealt with the threat from the sky. The Corps has already determined that the electromagnetic waves of dozens of F-15 Eagles are hovering in the air, so Sun Cheng does not rise to high altitude, because he knows that once he climbs into an airspace that is very suitable for the other party's battle, he will be hunted by the Eagles. Kill, continue to hover at a low altitude in the near ground, but will make the other party fear. Relying on his flexible maneuverability, Sun Cheng took 4 Sparrow missiles that locked himself around the base for a while, and then suddenly changed to robot mode and landed next to a U.S. military M4 Patton tank to seduce them. Destroyed the wrong target. Sir Onslaught, I need help. It happened that Onslaught finally arrived at the base at this time. Sun Cheng had just re-raised into the air, and as soon as he saw him coming, he quickly leaned over and asked him for help. The guy grabbed a Sidewinder missile with a wave of his hand, and threw it into the midair to detonate. He glanced at another battlefield not far away, where Megatron and Blackout, who had been hit by Autobot, were still in a bitter battle after the United States Air Force arrived. Onslaught didn't rush to help in the past. He just summoned his weapon and pointed it at the sky. He had been chasing Sun Cheng's 3 F-15 Eagles and shot several times in a row. Then he asked, "What about Allspark? Why, I can't feel its fluctuation." With human, Autobot seems to have moved on Allspark. Sun Cheng just answered, because of a moment of negligence, he ate a Sidewinder missile on his back. The explosion caused him to fall from in midair to the ground. Fortunately, the Sidewinder explosion unit was not large, although it also left some scars on his mechanical body, so it would not seriously hurt him. In contrast to Sun Cheng, Onslaught was not checked for a while. His side was also hit by a Sidewinder missile, but after the missile exploded, there was no crack on his mechanical body. It seemed that he had not been completely successful the previous time. During his evolution, the strength of his mechanical body has improved again. Disturbing flies. Although I also noticed that the combat missiles issued by humans fighters can't hurt themselves, but these troubles from the sky are not resolved, and the other party has been harassing themselves, but it is not Decepticon style. At this moment, Onslaught raised his weapon and shot at the sky frantically. His weapon has a great formidable power, and even the human tank can't stand a shot, let alone the F-15 Eagle. Soon, an F-100 Eagle hovering at a low altitude below 15 meters was shot by Onslaught because it could not escape, and suddenly exploded in midair. For a while, the F-15 Eagles that were still sieving Sun Cheng's F-2 Eagles, who were afraid to eat his weapons, had raised their heights one after another, but none of them retreated. With Sun Cheng people, soon, the missile rain hiding the sky and covering the earth was shot at people. Disturbing flies. The missiles hiding the sky and covering the earth finally annoyed several of Decepticon. Megatron kicked Ratchet with a kick and looked up into the sky, his eyes full of anger. Although his mechanical body is not afraid of some combat missiles launched by the F-15 Eagle, he is now fighting the Autobot leader and several elite soldiers. Whenever he is impacted by the human missile, his opponents will never miss such a good opportunity, especially Optimus Prime, has left several scars of terror on him. Useless things. He glanced coldly at Sun Chang in the distance. His face was irritated, but his heart was very calm. How clever is Megatron? How can he not see it? That obviously has the ability to fight in air, but I don't know when he has transformed back robot mode next to Sun Chang near Onslaught, can't he really fight at this time? I am afraid that he is more to protect himself and save his strength. Otherwise, with the strength and flexibility of Decepticon's mechanical body, even if he is the worst of all Decepticons present, but if he fights desperately, he might not be able to take away a few human fighter. Interesting, it seems that the little brat under Soundwave dared to devious thought to Allspark. Fortunately, they are currently in battle. Although Megatron noticed Sun Chang's careful thinking, he didn't attack immediately. His eyes swept Sun Chang too coldly, and after taking note of this cunning little brat, he commanded Blackout, who had been guarding himself around him faithfully, "Go, first solve those disgusting things in the sky." "Yes, Your Majesty." After Blackout complied, he immediately looked up at the sky, immediately touched his back with his backhand, took out his own propeller and took it in his hand, and suddenly violently threw it into the air. Shoo! It's also weird to say that his propeller doesn't look like a weapon, but at this time it is like a boomerang, with a terrifying air-braking momentum towards a high-flying F-15 Eagle in the sky. Shoot! The high-speed rotation propeller was easily avoided by the maneuverable F-15 Eagle, but these were clearly expected by Blackout, and he suddenly raised a plasma cannon which was a few shots in a row. The next moment, the F-15 Eagle fragment exploding in the air, is splashing everywhere. Sun Chang is not far away. He has transformed back to robot mode from the moment he just hid next to Onslaught Hostile. He held M61 Vulcan from time to shoot at the sky for 2 rounds. After a while, he missed one of the missiles, but instead gave him a cold shot and shot down a F-15 Eagle. Despite the small gains, the uneasiness in Sun Chang's heart became more and more serious. Let's go, this situation is now in chaos. He secretly warned himself that the US military's counterattack was faster than Sun Chang expected. Only a team of more than a dozen Air Force headed the main force F-15 Eagle could have caused Decepticons. If the number with more, this battle may not be possible. Megatron, they look down on human and Earth civilization in their eyes, so even if they have already felt the threat of human, they will also mostly ignore it because they look down on them. If this continues, Decepticons will definitely suffer. Blackout suddenly stopped encircling the Autobot and started to clean up the United States Air Force fighter threat above the sky with Onslaught. Instead, he was slightly sighed in relief. With his participation, plus Onslaught's efforts, the loss was in the hands of 2 people. The F-15 Eagle soon reached as many as 7 or 8, so these expensive fighters no longer dared to hover at low altitudes, and they all rose to a height of several thousand meters. At first sight, Sun Chang's little sighed in relief, but the alertness of his heart was not dispersed. American is not only capable of this. If we are dragged down here, their reinforcements will only come in continuously. You must get Allspark quickly, otherwise you will have no hope. He was a person who loved to think a lot. He had suffered a loss in reality because he was not prepared enough, but now he is more suspicious. Seeing the scene, Li Shi turned to Decepticon again, but the green smoke was suddenly ignited near the human team that protected Allspark. Sun Chang didn't like to worry about it. After a rollover to avoid a cannonball, he simply couldn't. Then go above the sky and rush towards the human guards who keep Allspark. Boom! Quickly stop him. Sun Chang had just moved, and there were paving bullets inside. He calmly dodged those injuries that could threaten him while continuously advancing toward Allspark while still not forgetting to fire a gun to suppress the defenders who tried to hinder his progress. Da 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 da. Human's bullets landed on his mechanical body, leaving only a crackling sound, and could not cause much damage to him at all. Instead, the bullets fired from the M61 Vulcan in Sun Chang's hand, with the roar of death, went away with death. As long as someone boldly dared to fight back, he would be hit by his ultra-high precision. Moreover, even if they tried to hide in Humvee to resist, their armor could not withstand the round of M61 Vulcan shots. Shoo! Rows of missiles suddenly changed their targets, no longer entangled Megatron and Blackout, but moved towards Sun Chang and prevented him from moving forward. The radiation waves caused by the explosion will occasionally affect his mechanical body. Pull and fly. Sun Chang had just stabilized his body. The core suddenly caught some laser guides. He unconsciously looked down at the mechanical body, and then he saw that there were more than a dozen laser spots on the mechanical body. This is, looking in the direction from the laser, he soon saw that outside the meters, a team of human soldiers actually rushed out of the Hummer and infantry car while taking advantage of the round of missile volley. Fierce and unafraid of death raised his weapon and locked himself with the laser guide above. Wait, is this guiding the target against the air? Sun Chang, a thought flashed through the mind, and soon realized what these US soldiers were doing to themselves. In response, he quickly raised his gun and pointed at the US soldiers who were trying to provide laser guidance for the air, and at the same time immediately activated the core early warning function to the maximum. Soon, with the heavy noise that suddenly sounded above the sky, he looked up and looked at the sky with only one glance. Sun Chang's complexion had changed dramatically. A-10 Thunderbolt II, also known as Warthog, is a single-seat dual-engine attack aircraft produced by Fairchild Aircraft Company. It is an active fighter of the United States Air Force responsible for providing intensive support missions to ground forces, regardless of whether it is the equipped GAU-8 Avenger rocket launcher known as the King of Aircraft Gun Firepower, or the bomb load far more than the F-15 Eagle. Although I don't know if it can threaten Megatron, they are enough to split the mechanical body of Sun Chang. To make matters worse, Sun Chang also saw that in addition to the 6 Warthogs coming in the distance, there were actually 2 silhouettes of a C-6U gunship. The 2mm howitzer equipped on it should easily penetrate him. The mechanical body. In a flash, Sun Chang realized that Decepticons were in danger. Ground, the helicopter arranged for you is about to arrive, please prepare for evacuation. When this notice came from the communicator, Sam, who was scared for a long time, only felt nervous for a long time, and finally relaxed. Xiaoming saved. He glanced at Michaela with a wry smile, and found that Michaela was also looking at herself, and could not help but stretch out another hand that didn't hold Allspark and took the initiative to shake her thing. It's okay, everything has passed. Quote. Sam comforted her so much, but still looked worried from time to time in a battlefield in the distance where he was fiercely fighting. There, his newly recognized alien friend, Autobots are struggling against the evil Decepticon. Bumblebee broke his leg and couldn't avoid it. He had eaten a few guns and was lying on the floor dying. Ratchet was not much better. He was not a battle-type soldier. He was injured by Blackout just to get rid of Megatron. With his left arm, his eyes were hurt. Ironhide is very experienced. He is mainly fighting with Blackout. He only gives a shot to Megatron in the back. Therefore, Megatron is particularly miserably targeted. The mechanical body has been cracked. However, to say that the worst is undoubtedly Jazz, Sam doesn't even dare to look towards Jazz, a body that has been torn by Megatron into 2.5. Although he has not been in contact with this Autobot for a long time, it doesn't matter. It was Bumblebee who laid down his life to save him, or Optimus Prime, who was just right, so he left a deep impression on him, and Autobot also made Sam feel good about it. Robert, release the smoke. Beside, Captain William from the Special Forces issued an order. Black Soldier Sergeant Robert immediately greeted 2 soldiers and rushed out of the infantry fighting vehicle. The 3 people released several green smoke flares all around. Captain, the signal coordinates have been sent out. Robert quickly returned to the open door on the side of the infantry fighting vehicle, reached out and shouted inside. Sam, listen to me, the helicopter will come soon, we will charge ahead in every moment, help you both leave. Captain William put down the communicator, looked seriously towards Sam, and gave him a serious account. Sam anxiously tightened the Allspark cube in his arms. What about you? Can't sit down with so many people. William's eyes dimmed and shook the head. Decepticon's firepower is so strong that even the F-15 Eagle can't suppress them. Although the reinforcements are coming in continuously, it takes time. You are different from us, we are soldiers. Yes, soldier, we need us here, we can't go. Sam's throat moved, but he didn't know how to speak to his mouth. He only glanced at Michaela panically and helplessly, and found that she was looking at herself with the same expression. He didn't want to give his sweetheart a look at his difficult situation. He quickly turned around and looked towards the battlefield in the distance, looked towards Bumblebee, who hadn't seen anything for a long time. Sergeant Robert didn't know what he meant by this reaction, and he was about to ask him, and suddenly there was a violent explosion next to him. Everyone on the infantry fighting vehicle had a complexion change, and Robert, who first reacted, raised his head, and his dark, iron face was even more ugly. It is the Decepticon, he is coming, ready to fight. William's heart sank suddenly, and he immediately understood who Robert said was that Decepticon. They can be so fearful that they are used to life and death, except for the unknown Decepticon that could be turned into Reaper drone, except for the one that once wreaked havoc in the Sector 7 base and chased them all the way from Hoover Dam to Mission City. Pong! Boom! Nearby, explosions kept coming, and William noticed that the F-15 Eagle above the sky had been forced to leave the low-altitude area, and after being forced to rise above 1,000 meters, he quickly ordered, "Everyone is ready to fight, protect Allspark." Quote, "Hey." Robert equipped the weapon with a grenade launcher. In the previous conflict, they had long realized that dealing with the human lethal standard rifle had no effect in the face of Decepticon, which could threaten them except missiles, artillery and large calibers. In addition to armor-piercing, only rifle grenade has some lethality. "Go on, it's not safe here." William pats Sam's shoulder, with a wry smile, urged him and Michaela to leave the infantry vehicle. Sam's expression was stiffly knotted. Before that, an infantry car was exploded by Decepticon's M61 Vulcan. Bradley's armor was vulnerable in front of Decepticon, just like a family car was shot by an assault rifle. As soon as a few people got out of the car, Sam noticed that all around lit dark green smoke. He looked at the source and found that it was emitted from a few small grenade-type cans lying on the ground. That was U.S. signal flares equipped by Special Forces. All around is the sound of bullets shooting everywhere, and the explosion sound also sounds from time to time. As soon as Sam got out of the car, he saw the familiar little Decepticon not far away, holding his right hand that had become M61 Vulcan, and was crazy towards them. Shot, while trying to advance towards himself and the others, but the set of human defenses protecting him looked slightly weak. The firepower of several Humvee and M2 Bradley were all trying to counterattack. Except for the avoidance during the shooting of the ceramic anti-tank missile, the Decepticon had no meaning of dodge, and the bullets hit him. However, he could not threaten him at all. "Sky, we need support." William quickly requested support from the F-15 Eagle squadron hovering above the sky. After receiving a positive response from the opponent, he immediately ordered a soldier next to him, "Quick, provide laser guidance for aircraft." "Roger that." The soldier took several soldiers, cautiously avoiding stray bullets, and locked the Decepticon with the laser transmitter on the weapon. Soon, the missiles hiding the sky and covering the earth were moved towards the Decepticon that was trying to get close to them and were launched frantically. "Captain, useless." Robert also fired a few rounds of rifle grenade, but soon approached William with a bitter face. "This guy is too cunning, almost no missile can hit him." William frowned as he watched the dwarf Decepticon, who quickly used various methods to avoid the missiles launched by the F-15 Eagle from above the sky. "I was worried," and suddenly a voice came again from the communicator in my hand, so that they could not help but rejuvenate. "Ground and ground, the reinforcements have arrived over you. Thunderbolt Squad will provide fire support to the ground, please note the target." Thunderbolt Squad. Robert was overjoyed, and quickly looked up at the sky. Sure enough, he saw a few small points. He was very familiar with American military equipment. He recognized it at a glance. "It's Warthog, good guy, here are 6, hey, those 6 don't look like, is it gunship?" Quote. William recognized the new American aircraft that was on the battlefield sooner than he knew. He rushed out in excitement, raised his weapon, and marked Sun Cheng with laser guidance. Above the sky, the newly arrived 6 Warthogs and 2 aerial gunships soon noticed the laser guidance, and a response came out immediately from the communicator. "Thunderbolt Squad has marked the target, and the ground units should avoid it." But said that Decepticon, after they were marked with a laser, they soon realized that he responded and raised his gun at William and the others. It was a shot. William quickly rushed to the rear of the next infantry fighting vehicle, and Robert ran away. Slowly, the energon bullet fired by M61 Vulcan rubbed his shoulders, and the burn immediately hurt, and he took a shower and quickly took the comrades beside him into hiding. It was just that the others were not so lucky. In addition to the 2 soldiers who were nearby, many of the wounded soldiers who were lying on the ground immediately were killed. No, William hated his teeth and bit out blood. He glared at the small Decepticon in the distance, fiercely smashing it on the infantry fighting vehicle, and his hatred for him increased a few more times. He looked at Robert and saw that he took the head to indicate that he was not in trouble, then turned around and looked towards the short Decepticon impatiently, because the fire suppression from Thunderbolt Squad had begun. 6 newly arrived A-10 Thunderbolt II and the 2 AC-130 gunships just arrived on the battlefield and entered the battle. Perhaps received laser guidance from the Allspark protection team on the ground. The goal was simultaneously aimed at Sun Chang. Shoo! Hiding the sky and covering the Earth's firepower, the attention of most of the survivors in the base for a while fell into excitement with the arrival of those greatly showing divine might fighters. "We are saved." Michaela covered her cheeks with excitement, and the waves in her eyes were faintly visible. "It's not easy to say." William and Robert shook the head simultaneously. Both of them are survivors of Qatar base where Special Operations Command is located. They experienced the blackout assault, but they are very clear. Even the 130mm howitzer of AC-105 gunship is only a heavy hit on the Scorpion Decepticon. In the end, they did not can leave each other, which shows the horror of these alien mechanical soldiers. As expected, they had just received a notification from the communicator that 2 Black Hawk helicopters were about to arrive at the base to pick up Sam and Allspark to leave. The situation in the base immediately changed. Boom! A violent explosion sounded from the sky, making the American soldiers in the base excited by the arrival of reinforcements fell to the bottom of the valley again. No, Robert clenched his crown and looked at the sky incredulously. It was an A-10 Thunderbolt II that exploded in the air. Because of the many conflicts in the past, Warthog, known for its firepower and learning, created too many serious injuries and remained safe. The miracle of the return flight, so that it has long been myth in the hearts of American soldiers. Therefore, after the F-15 Eagle Squadron, which was good at close combat, was forced to lift off and release missiles to pin down ground targets, the newly supported Warthog attack aircraft dared to reduce the distance to several meters. Pour fire on the ground at very low altitude. As a result, they had to pay for their pride. Blackout raised his hand and raised plasma cannon and aimed at a Warthog burst of 3 guns. The Warthog attack aircraft was hit on the side of the fuselage in a hurry to avoid. The explosion was as dazzling as fireworks. This is not the worst case yet. The sudden explosion caused the American fighter formation from the sky to panic for a short period of time. In the panic of Sam and the others, the little Decepticon, who had always been their attention, leapt again. Although his mechanical body is full of marks left by various bullet marks and explosions at this time, in a fierce and imposing manner, he suddenly burst at low altitude and flew, almost approaching an aerial in almost an instant. Next to the gunship, flying around it, shooting wildly. The gunfire didn't last long in the sky. Sam and the others saw that the aerial gunship soon seemed to be out of control. The nose suddenly moved towards the northwest corner of the base after a sudden tilt. "Go on." "No." Robert covered his face in pain, and William quickly picked up the communicator and warned the air, "Quickly, pull the height, launch the combat missile and don't let it come close." It is a pity that the newly arrived U.S. fighters of several U.S. fighters apparently responded too slowly. When 2 Warthogs began to accelerate the elevation and tried to launch a combat missile against Sun Chang in high-speed movement, he had solved another AC-2 gunship and Warthog, and stared at another A-130. A few menacing support fighters just arrived on the battlefield and didn't insist 5 minutes before they were shot down. 4 Warthogs and 2 aerial gunships. In the end, only the remaining 2 were uncontrollable at first sight. After asking, the rear command center decisively chose to evacuate. As soon as they left, the 2 Black Hawk helicopters that were ready to pick up Sam and Allspark immediately became Sun Chang's new targets. Just after approaching the base, they were dropped by 2 rounds of M2 Vulcan continuous shooting. The other flew back in the difficult situation in the black smoke, and soon a burst of sound exploded a few kilometers away. "It's over." William's face was white, and even the fingers holding the communicator shuddered. This is still true of him who is used to life and death. Sam and Michaela, two young men and women who are still in high school, are even more embarrassed, and their faces are pale and ugly. The communicator was silent for a while, and then it rang again, calling the base. The enemy's air defense firepower is fierce, and we can't get air supremacy until more fighters arrive on the battlefield. Please temporarily evacuate to the following safe location. The army is about to strike covered in the base. Covered strike. Robert walked over to take the communicator from William, who hadn't came back to his senses, and asked, "Does it cover the entire base? We still have a lot of people here, and it's hard to complete the evacuation. Please evacuate to the following safe place as soon as possible. We will soon use 27M270 multiple launch rocket system to carry out a full covered strike on the base." The voice from the communicator suddenly became cold. Robert and William, who often carry out special operations abroad, finally reacted. After tentatively dispatching 2 teams of fighters and finding that it is impossible to destroy Decepticons with these mobilizable air powers, the United States military or the United States government finally couldn't sit still. They called a battalion equipped with M270 multiple launch rocket system, ready to destroy Decepticon using conventional weapons with the largest formable power of this army weapon. For this reason, they have even abandoned this base. Damn, withdraw quickly. After the reaction, William quickly greeted the soldiers around him to evacuate. As soon as he saw Sam standing there and holding Allspark, he quickly walked over and pulled Sam and said, "Sam, it is not safe here. Now we have to leave." "Ah, good." Sam and Michaela followed them in embarrassment, and watched as they prepared to evacuate. Just walked away several dozen meters away, heard the sound of a heavy object falling outside the several meters. Everyone looked at Isn't It Reaper drone hovering in the sky. He turned into robot mode and fell and called out the weapon, threatened to keep approaching them. "Hand over Allspark, I will let you leave safely." "No, Sam, never give him." Robert raised the rifle grenade, aiming to approach Sun Cheng as a grenade, but unfortunately he hid. Seeing that he raised M61 Vulcan and aimed at himself, he swallowed a slob of anxiety and thought he was going to die. He didn't want a huge silver object to suddenly hit Sun Cheng and flew him out. When they looked at it, they found that it was the lower body of Jazz's mechanical body, and they quickly looked down, only to find that it was Bumblebee who threw it over. He didn't know when he had sat up in the distance. Bumblebee was seriously injured at this time. But he was always paying attention to Sam and Allspark. When he realized their danger, he still struggled to sit up, and even threw half of the mechanical body of his comrade-in-law, Jazz, to save them. After being hit by a ton of Jazz's mechanical body, Sun Cheng threw it out heavily, rolled the Zen meters on the ground before stopping. After climbing again, he glanced coldly at Jazz's body and Bumblebee, and then looked down at several sunken mechanical bodies. Then he raised M61 Vulcan and pointed them at Sam. "If you don't plan to talk more nonsense, you just have to rob it." But he didn't want to. At this moment, a fierce warning came suddenly from his core. Sun Cheng quickly looked up above the sky, and next moment he immediately retransformed back to Reaper drone and flew out of the base at full speed. Soon, the base behind was immediately plunged into flames. The rockets from northwest fired continuously for 7 minutes before they ended. Because I still have some thoughts about Allspark, I didn't fly far. I kept hovering around the base. When Sun Cheng came back again, I suddenly saw that the base was already in disarray. There are countless potholes on the ground, and high-grade cement-paved roads are full of holes and cracks caused by explosions. From time to time, you can see the wreckage of the Hummer, infantry fighting vehicle, and even tanks that originally belonged to the U.S. military, burning. He even found some corpses and stumps of United States soldiers who had no time to evacuate. Most of them were directly carbonized, and some barely distinguished the appearance of the master before his death. One does not indicate what kind of pain they experienced in the recent past. From the explosive power and the previous ballistic firing frequency, Sun Cheng guessed that these strikes should come from the M270 multiple launch rocket system equipped by the United States Army. This is a conventional army weapon with great formidable power, and the blast-like blows can't eat even the strong and weak Decepticon and Autobot. When Sun Cheng quickly saw the Cybertronian still in the base, his first thought was to rejoice in the prudent move he had just evacuated. Because of a hail of rockets, when Sun Cheng returned to a messy base, the entire base that had been cleaned by artillery had no more buildings and facilities that could be preserved, and it seemed very empty. Looking around, in addition to the two Cybertron races that have been fighting for countless years, such as the Decepticon-level Autobot, no other survivors can be found. He happened to be back, and just saw Onslaught withdraw the double-barreled railgun on his back, transformed back to robot mode from the super heavy truck. The hero who ended this hail of rockets was Onslaught. Despite the hasty response, Onslaught was launched towards the location of the U.S. military, SM-270 multiple launch rocket system in just a few minutes by the double-barreled railgun. 10 shellings stopped this hail of rockets. Nonetheless, in just a few minutes, the U.S. military also tilted at least 6 rockets into the base. So much so that Onslaught's standard missiles, such as the Rattlesnake, can only leave a white mark on the mechanical body. At this time, there are all kinds of terrorist cracks, which are obviously struck by rockets of that frequency. It is also as strong as Onslaught. Seeing him, Onslaught chased directly out of the base without even saying hello. After a run, countless metal fragments continued to fall from his mechanical body. Blackout is more miserable than Onslaught. The mechanical body is not as hard as Onslaught. He was obviously hit by many rockets in the previous shelling. There is no good place on the mechanical body. To make matters worse, Sun Cheng actually saw a trace of shelling in his heart. At this time, his spark, which should be protected by his chest armor, has been exposed, and his spark will die. Judging by the gloomy rays of light, he may be dead soon. Looking at Megatron again, the state is obviously much better. The strength of his mechanical body is obviously still on the top of Onslaught. Even though he just experienced a wave of hail of rockets, only 10 cracks and some dents have been added to the strong mechanical body. When Sun Cheng arrived, the battle at this base was clearly coming to an end. Bumblebee was lying motionless in a crater, and next to him was Ratchet, who was full of scars. If he could occasionally see convulsions, I'm afraid Sun Cheng thought they had followed Jazz. It was Ironhide, which disappeared unexpectedly. Sun Cheng would naturally not think that he was destroyed in the hail of rockets just now, that he could not even see the wreckage. Then there is only one explanation left. He got the order from Optimus Prime to protect Allspark away. At the center of the base, the battle between Decepticons and Planetbot from Autobot leader is also coming to an end. Megatron, injured by a human that he despised, how is it feeling now? The slightly ridiculous voice came from Optimus Prime. If he hadn't seen his situation at this moment, maybe even Sun Cheng thought he had the upper hand. However, the real situation is that Optimus Prime is being pressed under Megatron at this moment. One arm has been broken, and even the outer armor of the head has been released a few pieces. The extreme situation is extremely extreme. Obviously, the young leader of this Autobot suffered a lot when facing Megatron. Shut up. Megatron's face is full of sinister, although he is a selfish dictator, but he loves to black out here. This makes Megatron, who is already in a very bad mood, has already succumbed to anger. He sneered fiercely at Optimus Prime with a cold sarcasm. The worms you are trying to protect, without the slightest hesitation, chose to bury you here. You are too disappointing me, Optimus Prime. Cowardly, you let Autobot more and more depraved. If Sentinel Prime is still alive, he will surely be like me, disappointed with you now. Quote. Hearing the mention of the word Sentinel Prime, this, not only did Optimus Prime's eyes flash, but even Sun Cheng's expression just changed slightly. Sentinel Prime was the Autobot leader before Optimus Prime. It is said that he is a descendant of a veteran of ancient era and a very powerful mechanical soldier. In Frenzy's original memory, Sentinel Prime is a strong and overbearing Autobot leader. Like Megatron, Decepticon is extremely cruel to him, and tortured to death in his hands are countless Decepticon soldiers. 10,000 years ago, when Decepticon and Autobot woke up from Primal Chaos era, it was Sentinel Prime. In order to obtain more resources and recompete for the sovereignty of planet Cybertron, the Autobot he led did not fear the blackmail of Decepticons. Outrageously, the same Decepticons, who have woken up from a long sleep, have restarted a new civil war that lasted over 10,000 years. Legend has it that he sent a team of the most elite Autobot soldier to steal Allspark from Decepticons. It is said that he himself sneaked into the Spark Room and stolen Allspark. It is also said that he once defied a Decepticon executive and obtained Allspark from him. In short, on planet Cybertron, the name of Sentinel Prime appears in almost every story about Allspark. It is such a tyrannical Autobot leader that led the Autobot that was far inferior to Decepticon after the last Civil War, fighting the Decepticons led by Megatron and Shockwave for over 10,000 years. It can be said that if it wasn't for the great decisive battle more than 100 years ago, Autobot suddenly changed a new leader, and Sentinel Prime also disappeared inexplicably. It's hard to say how many years to fight in that Cybertronian civil war. Sentinel Prime is the teacher of Optimus Prime. Upon hearing his name, Optimus Prime's reaction suddenly became intense. Teacher is pursuing peace. For peace, he even dreamed of negotiating with you Decepticon. But you, Megatron, your cruelty and uncontrolled plunder will only completely destroy Cybertron. With only one arm left, Megatron was blown out with force, and Optimus Prime immediately stood up from the ground with one hand. Megatron settled outside of the several meters and saw Sun Cheng after standing firm. The red light hostility in his eyes was more intense. Little things, what about Allspark I want? Your Majesty, Sir Onslaught has gone. Sun Cheng cautiously replied. From Megatron's eyes, he sensitively caught a trace of killing intent. Useless things. Megatron coldly snorted, suddenly summoned his weapon and aimed at Optimus Prime, which was a shot that shot him down and fell again. Then just preparing to pounce on it again, this old rival suddenly happened. A special energon fluctuation from Allspark suddenly burst out, and Megatron stopped the action. His eyes stayed on Optimus Prime and Sun Cheng respectively for a moment, and then after firing two more guns against Optimus Prime, the retransformed back-to aircraft form flew in the direction of the wave. As soon as Megatron had left, Sun Cheng was hesitating to follow him, and suddenly he watched Optimus Prime, who was seriously injured, stood up again. Although the young new leader of this Autobot is inferior to Megatron, he was seriously injured at this time, but Sun Cheng did not dare to have any thoughts about him, and he knew very clearly that this guy can easily clean up himself. Where dare to stay here now, think about it, and transformed back to Reaper drone form, and flew towards the location of Allspark. After all, only about 10 minutes passed before and after. Although protected by Ironhide, Sam and the others could not run far. Sun Cheng flew out of the base for a moment, and then caught the energon fluctuation of Allspark below. Sam is desperate, this time is completely desperate. The previous round of hail of rockets, a huge military base, was almost completely covered. If the girl who was Crush was by her side, Sam didn't want her to see her cowardly side, plus there was a team of special forces who had been protecting themselves from the Sector 7 base and still bragging for himself, he might really want to give up. However, sometimes the courage alone can change the result. Sam knows better than anyone else. At the most critical moment just now, if Ironhide came to support in time, it's hard to say whether they could rush out of the base alive. Even so, 3 Hummers and 1 infantry car, and only 7 or 8 people in their infantry car survived. After rushing out of the base, I saw that I was about to arrive at the meeting place specified above, but I didn't want to. At this time, a super heavy truck caught up with the moving team and wrestled with Ironhide. Boom! In the explosion, Ironhide's roar kept coming. Decepticon, take a step forward. Hand over Allspark. In response to Ironhide, it was a violent and icy voice from the mechanical soldier made of super heavy truck, which at first glance was no worse than Optimus Prime and Megatron 2. Just before Sam also saw his fierceness at the base, Onslaught shot that shotgun in his hand but shot down several US fighters. If only such a Decepticon strikes, Sam is not desperate even if he is worried. After all, there are powerful Autobot soldier, Ironhide, to protect himself. By the way, with the arrival of Onslaught, soon afterwards there was a whistling shuttle sound above the sky. The people who had just escaped from the base thought it was a newly arranged aircraft supported by the military. They did not want to look up simultaneously. It was discovered that it was a strange aircraft with a shape different from all the fighters on Earth. Everyone who has already seen the real body of this strange aircraft can't help but think. It's Megatron. Black Soldier Robert smiled bitterly and looked up towards the sky. Apart from the dull expression, there was no more reaction. William and the rest of the special forces are not much stronger than him, some with tremors, some with face deathly pale, and even a slightly inferior psychological quality, and even when Megatron appeared, he reached out and covered his mouth, silently burst into tears. We're fucked. Such a desperate sentence, said from the mouth of a U.S. Special Forces, but gave Sam a kind of impulse to want a nodded echo. Yes, he has the same idea now. Sam, protect Allspark Cube. Captain William, who was still a father for the first time, reacted first. He took a long and deep breath and seemed to want his trembling voice to be as calm as possible, looking at him with an uneasy look. It's already not far from the settlement point. You take this and go to the placement point. I will contact aircraft to send you away with Allspark. Quote. As soon as he finished speaking, he took out a signal flare from Sam's military belt and handed it to Sam. After arriving at the installation point, immediately pull the signal flare away and an aircraft will take you away. Sam subconsciously took the signal flare and then reacted. No, I can't do it. He was obviously frightened by the series of battles that had taken place before. This panic and uneasy expression undoubtedly annoyed William. I saw that he grabbed Sam's collar angrily and dragged him in front of him, stared wide-eyed eagerly to reprimand. Listen. Sam, you are no longer an ordinary high school student. United States needs you. Human needs you. You have to stand up bravely like a soldier. This since the first meeting of Sector 7 with him, Brother Da Bing, who has been caring about himself, has suddenly changed to a serious look. He really stunned Sam, who was in a panic. He opened his eyes and stared blankly. With William, listened to him continue to be instructed. You must take the Allspark cubic and take it back to the military. Here we are holding it, even if it is dead, we will try to help you to buy time. After that, he looked towards Michaela, the female high school student who had no sense of presence beside him. You are the same, leave with him. After the explanation, he drilled back into the infantry fighting vehicle, picked up the communicator, and called for support to the previous channel. This is the 4X team, the current coordinates XXX, XXX, call support, we are protecting here an important figure and an important item are related to the safety of the United States of America and even the whole human. When you hear it, please arrange air support immediately. He called for 2 consecutive times, only to hear the voice from the communicator. Receive the request, Raptor team has arrived in your airspace, please call for support on channel XXX. Withdraw to the location of 4X as soon as possible, I will reschedule the helicopter for you. XXX team received, we. Captain William hadn't finished speaking, and suddenly it felt like an infantry fighting vehicle suddenly swayed. Came back to his senses, he couldn't help but scream out a white hair sweat. It turned out that Megatron had already fallen from the sky. He seemed to feel that Allspark had fallen into his palm steadily. They had fun to play with them. Pong. After an infantry fighting vehicle weighing more than 20 tons was set off, and after it was allowed to roll on the ground for several laps, Megatron walked forward without hurry, shouting coldly into the infantry vehicle, "Hand over Allspark, boy." Despite being dazzled by the previous pass, most of the people in the infantry vehicle were only slightly scratched. After the infantry vehicle had stabilized, the best-fitting black soldier Robert kicked the door open and jumped out of the infantry fighting vehicle. Quick, Sam, bring Allspark cube. After Robert and William came out, they helped Sam and Michaela escape early. Megatron looked at them with interest, and still walked towards them in a hurry. After seeing Sam coming out with Allspark in his arms, there was a bad sneer on his face. At the next moment, he suddenly summoned the weapon in his hand and aimed at the infantry fighting vehicle, which was a bombardment. No, William and Robert shouted in despair and threw Sam and Michaela. The next moment, the violent explosion immediately took the lives of several soldiers who were still trapped in the infantry fighting vehicle and could escape in the future. The shock and splashed metal fragment not only drove 4 of them out, but also left countless wounds on several people. Cough. Sam coughed and stood up. He was well protected by Robert and William. He was not injured except for some scratches, but because of the fall of Allspark in his arms, the cube was pressed against the chest for a while, only he coughed repeatedly. Shaking his dizzy head, Sam quickly reacted, thinking of his current situation. He immediately looked towards Megatron, but saw him raise his weapon again, but this time the muzzle was aligned. Yourself. Am I dying? Sam swallowed a spit, and he looked a little bit reluctantly at the bloody, but still sexy and charming dream lover, Michaela, with an inexplicable calm in his heart. I'm sorry to prepare for my death, but I don't want a roar to come from other directions. Almost at the moment when the sound sounded, I was standing not far away in front of him. I used to look at Trivial Ant and mocked myself. Megatron was actually flew out. Megatron, do not want to get Allspark. This familiar and majestic mechanical sound made Sam happy. He quickly looked around and immediately saw the outside meters. A red and blue Autobot soldier was standing there holding a weapon. Isn't it his old friend, Autobot leader, Optimus Prime? Sam, hurry up. After Optimus Prime shouted at him, immediately moved towards Megatron and rushed over. HMPH, just spare your life, since I was courting death, then go to hell. Coldly shouted, Megatron angrily saw that Optimus Prime appeared in front of himself again, and immediately moved his anger, immediately Incarnation flying form, rushed towards him. The two super mechanical soldiers are fighting together, even though Decepticon Peerless Battle Strength and Optimus Prime are seriously injured, but a dying, starved camel is still bigger than a horse, he can hold Megatron at least for a while. William and Robert also returned to Sam's side. Two people suffered a lot from protecting him and Michaela in the explosion just now. Even if wearing body armor, this would be covered all over with cuts and bruises. Bad luck's Robert's left eye was pierced by the splashing fragment, and it seemed to be useless. Sam, go, we need support. William helped Robert, who was weak, and urged Sam, who was looking anxiously at Optimus Prime fighting Megatron. Michaela also persuaded. Yes, Sam, we can't help them if we stay here. Let's go. Sam naturally knew this, and although he was very worried about Optimus Prime, he was still nodded. The four of them helped each other and were about to rush to the place of settlement. Suddenly he heard a roaring sound again from above the sky. Four people quickly looked up and quickly smiled simultaneously. It's a raptor. William licked his chapped lips and said excitedly, our aircraft is here to support. Above the sky, at this time, 6 of the latest American 4th-generation fighter F-6 Raptors lined up above them, seeming to have noticed the situation on the ground, and they kept maneuvering, circling over several people. Calling Raptor, we are the 4X team, we are here to escort an important figure and important items related to human safety, please provide us with support immediately. After taking out the individual communication device from Robert's waist, William quickly adjusted to the specified frequency and tried to contact those F-22 Raptors. Not disappointing him, the affirmative reply was quickly passed on. Raptor received, we will provide you with support. Sam would have reacted this way too, grabbed the communicator from his mouth, looked at the upper hand again not far away, and was about to hit Megatron, loudly shouted with Optimus Prime's killer, seeing the one who is talking with red blue, does the tall Autobot fight the silver robot? Aim all the missiles at him. Raptor received. Soon dozens of missiles dropped from the sky and hit Megatron accurately. Successful. Michaela stared at Megatron, who was constantly hit by missiles and exploded around her, asking excitedly and restlessly. No. The smile on Robert's face only lasted for a moment, and it became ugly again. Our missiles cannot cause more damage to him. William smiled towards the Megatron, who had eaten dozens of missiles, but still hadn't seen many wounds. He can see clearly that those Sidewinder missiles, GBU-22 Joint Direct Attack Bombs and GBU-32 Small Diameter Bombs launched from the F-39 Raptor, even if they hit Megatron, can only be left on his mechanical body. Put some white marks and dents. The only thing that can damage him is the high explosive, armor-piercing AIM-120, but they also only add dozens of small cracks to the Megatron's mechanical body, causing the armor on his chest to begin to fall off and remove him. The spark is exposed. Seeing the damage, the AIM-120 is only slightly stronger than the formidable power of the Ironhide rocket. Known as the strongest fighter of human, after shooting the carried missiles, only the aircraft gun is the weapon, but the aircraft gun can't cause any damage to Megatron at all. So, Raptor team, who had just arrived on the battlefield, immediately embarrassedly found that they were useless. Disgusting thing. A missile was smashed by the Raptor team, proud of being Megatron naturally annoyed. Seeing that they could only use the aircraft gun to deal with himself after they finished the missile, he sneered and tore off the other arm of Optimus Prime, throwing it far to nowhere, and kicking him with a wicked foot kick to Sam's side. After doing this, Megatron looked up towards the sky, and the next second he immediately changed to an aircraft form. He jumped into the sky at the fastest speed and flew to an F-22 before the Raptor team had responded. Next to Raptor, 2 rounds of energon bullets were suddenly shot from the 2 wings, knocking it close to the air and exploding. As if not affected by the explosion at all, soon, he approached another F-22 again outside of the several hundred meters. After arriving above it, Megatron suddenly transformed back to robot mode and fell to the Raptor. On the back, he saw that he grabbed one side of the wing with the other hand and summoned his weapon. The F-22 Raptor under his feet was a shot. Boom! In the light of the sky, Megatron also began to fall down. He quickly stabilized his figure in the air, while transforming back to aircraft form again. 2 expensive F-2 Raptors were destroyed by him in a row, and the Raptor team was obviously frightened. At first glance, he approached again, and the remaining 4 Raptors simultaneously increased their speed to the limit. Fighting. Seeing that several fighters had fled in full, although Megatron could catch up, it would take some time to eliminate them all. He still remembers Allspark and Optimus Prime, so after finding out that the few human-machine fighter difficult situations escaped, he just satirized the irony in the air, waste toys. Soon, he folded back to the ground again and fell beside Optimus Prime. Sam, soon, I'm running out of time. I'm begging you, and put Allspark cube into my chest. It turned out that Optimus Prime had been persuading Sam to put that Allspark into his own spark, trying to use his leader rank Super Spark to forcibly erase this Allspark that belongs to Decepticon. You did good, little brat, you made me very satisfied. Megatron kicked Optimus Prime away, staring at Sam fiercely with a short stature, grinning, and showing sinister fangs with a mouthful. Come on, now give Allspark to me, I can spare you not dead. Quote. This is obviously not a word of praise. Sam, who was regretting his own unbearable heart, heard clearly. He looked up at the Megatron, who was full of arrogance and sarcasm. After swallowing a spit, he suddenly said voluntarily, Mr. Megatron, I can give you this Allspark, but can you meet one of my requirements? No, Sam. He had just finished speaking, and Optimus Prime lying not far away shouted anxiously at him, you can't give Allspark to him, otherwise not only you Earth, the entire universe will fall into the hands of Decepticon. Boom. With a single shot, Optimus Prime flew out again. Megatron leaned down to look at Sam with interest, and asked, Speak, little brat, say your wishes. Maybe I will promise you. Sam, I misunderstood you. Behind him, the disappointed voice of the favorite girl Michaela came. Sam didn't take care of her. He first looked at Allspark in his hand, and then looked up towards Megatron again. After peripheral vision determined the distance between his chest and himself in an instant, this is to take a long and deep breath, with a vibrato in the words, Dear Mr. Megatron, I have only one request, that is, I hope you can die. As if exhausting all his energy, Sam yelled out the last 3 words and slammed the Allspark cube in his hand into the Megatron spark that had lost the protection of the front chest armor in. This sudden change, obviously not only Optimus Prime did not think of it, Michaela and William did not think of it, even the cunning Megatron, but also because of their own arrogance and despise of human did not expect. So, he had to watch the Allspark cube, just like a burning iron, forced into the core of himself. No, with a bit of anger, panic and regret, after a roar of pain that sounded through the sky, a powerful person like Megatron could not laugh to the end and became another Cybertronian who fell on Earth. Megatron is dead, so is the powerful Megatron dead. Just now I was still punching Optimus Prime, kicking two mothers, and Wei, who had to go to heaven with the sun side by side, died like this. If the non-core is confirmed again, the data returned clearly tells Sun Chang that he can no longer catch the Megatron spark fluctuations. I am afraid that he has been lurking in the vicinity. He has witnessed all this Sun Chang and still can't believe what he has done. Saw. Leader of the Decepticons, Megatron, the super dictator of planet Cybertron, was killed by a human on Earth. The sluggishness only lasted for a moment, and soon came back to his senses. Sun Chang's eyes fiery looked towards the field. Whether it was the seriously injured Optimus Prime or Megatron's corpse, it was a good thing that made him extremely hot, especially the back by. Megatron's mechanical body uses a lot of super steel alloy. Although the toughness is insufficient, the hardness of this alloy has reached more than 700 times that of ordinary steel. It is corrosion resistant and high temperature resistant, and even on planet Cybertron, only Shockwave's Gxian Academy of Advanced Technology's internal laboratory of the Advanced Technology Academy can produce this super alloy created by the Eschers. In addition to a few Decepticon advanced commanders such as Megatron using super steel alloy manufacturing and strengthening their own mechanical body, perhaps Optimus Prime, who had a good relationship with Shockwave, also has a little. It is said that the mechanical body of elite soldier Ironhide in Autobot is made with a small amount of super steel alloy. Therefore, it is not surprising that Sun Chang will be eyeing Megatron's corpse. Once Megatron died, Optimus Prime was seriously injured, making it difficult to threaten himself. Seeing this, Sun Chang would be able to endure wherever he could. He jumped from the hidden place and flew towards Megatron's corpse. Damn, it's Decepticon. Sun Chang had just landed, and the few survivors who were still in excitement suddenly became complexly changed, especially Sam, who was following the passionate hug of the little lover Michaela, and his legs were weak and collapsed. A few people glanced indifferently. Sun Chang was not a bloodthirsty person, so as long as they didn't threaten themselves, he didn't mean to take action on these survivors anymore. He walked quietly to Megatron's body, and he frowned quickly. The most wanted sacred artifact, Allspark, was actually tucked into the Megatron Spark by the American boy, which not only destroyed this leader of the Decepticons, but also destroyed Allspark. Without it, the Megatron's body in front of him is undoubtedly a very valuable spoils of war. However, after a closer look, he realized that he was thinking too much. The mechanical body of Megatron is too big. The mechanical soldier of this tall dozen meters may not have to weigh more than 100 tons, and the maximum unloaded weight of Sun Chang is only 2 tons. By foot. This is obviously a very difficult multiple-choice question. Sun Chang must make a choice, because he can only take a very small part of Megatron. He was undecided. Suddenly, Sun Chang felt that he had stepped on something hard, but he was not crushed on the spot. I thought it was just an alloy fragment that fell from Megatron. He glanced at it casually, next moment, and his eyes were full of blue light. What? With a startled voice, he subconsciously hurriedly stooped down to pick up the fragment under his feet and took it to himself. This is Allspark's fragment. Because the core functions are always on, Sun Chang's core just didn't catch a little energon fluctuation from this fragment when scanning the neighborhood, so he didn't care about it. However, when he picked up the fragment about the size of an adult's ring finger and took it in his hand, Sun Chang finally felt a subtle and disorderly information stored in the fragment, which is undoubtedly Cybertron's robotic organisms, or what they call life source power. Good stuff. Although energon is no longer in this fragment, it is not difficult to obtain energon. Sun Chang randomly found a human power plant to sneak in and suck up for a few days, which can almost fill up the consumption of his recent battles. But the information about this, so far Sun Chang has not seen any means other than core and Allspark. Compared to energon, this thing is more important to the evolution of robotic organisms. Thought that Allspark had disappeared with the death of Megatron, but did not want to actually have fragments remaining. Sun Chang suddenly became interested, and immediately stooped to find cautiously on the ground near Megatron. Hey, Sam, what is he doing? Michaela hugged Sam uncomfortably. Fragment didn't see Sun Chang start to several of her, let her mention her throat, and reassured her. She was outgoing and lively, staring at Sun Chang. After a while puzzled, he asked Sam out loud. I don't know. Sam also stared at Sun Chang with a puzzled look, and he didn't dare to answer for a while. Well, what is he looking for? Between the two people speaking, Sun Chang had circumvented Megatron and circled around 2 of his surrounding meters. In addition to the fragment he found 2 Allspark fragments. The one I found was still small, but there was a bigger one, probably no bigger than a child's fist. Just about to continue searching, suddenly Sun Chang only felt core warning. He subconsciously rolled in place, away from where he was standing. Boom! With an explosion, he was vigilant to stand up again. Sun Chang immediately saw a silver Autobot running towards them, holding a weapon in his hand and continuously shooting him. It was Ironhide. Damn, what about Onslaught? Before Ironhide was always pinned by Onslaught, Sun Chang did not pay much attention to this Autobot soldier. But now he came to support, but Sun Chang neither received the notice from Onslaught nor saw his silhouette, and dared to stay here. That's it. After quickly collecting the 4 pieces of Allspark fragment collected into the body, Sun Chang's wings flew into the sky and turned into a drone form. He glanced annoyedly at the Megatron mechanical body on the ground. Some regretted that he hadn't come immediately removed apart from him. Surrounded by a large enemy, Onslaught disappeared, and even more reinforcements from the US Army did not know when he would come again. He was afraid that he would not dare to stay any longer, and only glanced annoyedly at Megatron's body above the sky, even if it flew towards the southeast direction at full speed. There was a big mess in Mission City, and Sun Cheng knew that they had a huge disaster this time. It was so big, nearly 30 US fighters were shot down and crashed, and 2 bases also suffered unequal damage, not to mention the casualties. The loss of weapons and equipment is enough to make that seeking revenge for the slightest grievance United States government has an urgent red eye and will try to get revenge. This thing is to change other countries, and realize that there is still an influence from aliens in their own country that is constantly picking things up, and it is estimated that no one can sit still. To be cautious, Sun Cheng detoured the state of Idaho and went north via the state of Washington into Canada. After making a big bend, he re-entered the United States from the state of Minnesota. So, when he returned to his base again, the time had passed 2.5 days. After quietly revolving around the base all around, and after confirming the safety, Sun Cheng passed a secret exit and entered the nuclear silo. "I'm back, Atlas, Forerunner, come here." Throwing the thing on his hand to the ground, Sun Cheng immediately notified 2 people to come and see themselves. Soon, he saw Forerunner leading the way, followed by 2 Decepticons, one tall and one short, and came to his base main laboratory. "Master, you are back." Forerunner bent his knees slightly, gave him a salute, and glanced across the ground to see the 2 things brought by Sun Cheng. The rays of light in his eyes were clearly stagnant. "This is." Sun Cheng naturally saw the surprise on his face, and also looked at the ground with his eyes, and there was a little smile on his face. "My spoils of war." On the floor of the laboratory, the 2 spoils of war he brought were nothing but a sinister metal head and half-body corpse also made of unknown alloy. The former of them comes from the elite soldier, Blackout, killed by Decepticon, and the latter is the upper body of Autobot soldier, Jazz, which was torn by Megatron. Not too dirty, he sat on the ground with a buttock, and Sun Cheng smiled more in his eyes. Although he couldn't get Megatron's mechanical body, he was forced by Ironhide, but when he finally evacuated, he thought that there were several wreckages of Decepticon and Autobot on the side of the base. Originally, Sun Cheng was most interested in the heads of several Decepticon and Autobot soldier. Because the body structure of robotic organisms is surprisingly similar to human, they are also used to placing the core, especially the memory data storage chip, on the head. For those who are interested, this is a treasure that does not change for 1,000 gold. It's a pity that after cutting off Blackout's head that has lost his life sign with no difficulty, he has just prepared to solve Bumblebee, unexpectedly suffered a big loss. Ratchet, who was also in the US military base on the outskirts of Mission City, actually gave himself emergency treatment in a very short period of time, transforming his state from severely dying to the edge of dying. Originally, when he saw Sun Cheng returning to the base, he kept guarding against Sun Cheng until he saw that he was trying to kill a dying comrade, Bumblebee, and suddenly can't help summoned a weapon to blast him. Sun Cheng really didn't expect that this guy actually has battle strength, and he was suddenly left with rows of bullet marks on his body by that wheelie machine gun, especially his front chest mechanical armor, which was even torn and exposed come to his freshman spark. As powerful as Megatron, after exposing his spark, he was as a result of a small human boy, cautious as he suddenly gave up the harvest of Bumblebee's life, but he also revengefully took away the wreckage of Jazz's upper body. Although Forerunner didn't know Blackout, he had seen Jazz and knew it was a powerful Autobot soldier. Now that even he has fallen, the corpses have been brought back by Sun Cheng. He who has not low wisdom immediately complimented and said to Sun Cheng, "Congratulations, Master, your bravery will be resounded through Decepticon." Everyone loves to listen to compliments, and Sun Cheng is no exception. Although Jazz didn't die in his hands, the killed Megatron put himself in and was called the biggest loser. After a war, apart from Ironhide, Autobot almost fell, and failed to get Allspark. If American boy Sam hadn't replaced Megatron in the end, they would definitely lose. Onslaught is really wily old fox. Although Bumblebee interrupted the evolution process, the Allspark time he had contacted in the Sector 7 base was longer than Sun Cheng's 2 times combined. Now the battle strength as even Megatron is still not as good, I am afraid I will not lose to Starscream how much. This trip will definitely make a profit. However, to say the biggest winner, probably American and Sun Chang. Let's talk about American first. Don't look at the numerous losses of the US military in that war, and lost Allspark, but they seem to have reached some kind of consensus with Autobot, and they got 2 Decepticon mechanical bodies, one of which is from the leader of the Decepticons, Megatron. It is possible to take a glimpse of planet Cybertron's advanced technology and say that they have made a profit. Sun Chang is no worse than American. He had almost suffered a big loss in real world before. Now he is more cautious and careful. During a big war, Sun Chang never made it early, and when he dared to give up, he was able to make decisive choices. As a result, he not only got 4 Allspark fragments, but also got the mechanical body of Blackout's head and Jazz, giving him a period of time. Digest thoroughly. Even if Soundwave wakes up, it will be hard to get him. Myriad thoughts, with a compliment from Forerunner, flashing through my mind. Sun Chang's face inevitably has a stronger smile. Okay. Don't talk about these nonsense, Atlas, go get Lab 2 ready, I will soon use. Yes, Master. Atlas complied, went on to prepare. This low-rank Decepticon engineer, which is hardworking and resentful, makes him very fond of it, and helped Sun Chang a lot in the past. Lulu. It is the strange newborn Decepticon that was accidentally discovered in Mission City by Energon of Allspark after he was discovered in Mission City. This guy is like an ADHD patient in human. As Atlas walks, his head can't help rotates with it, a look of anxiety. Sun Chang looked at him and rekindled some interest in him. When he was found in Mission City before, Sun Chang did a check on him, but in order to track Allspark at that time, he only did it in a hurry, but did not study it in too much detail. As far as he knows, this guy has not yet formed his own core. Not only is the mechanical body fragile, unable to withstand a single blow, the wisdom is not as good as those of the cannon fodder type Decepticon that was born through low-rank core. Perhaps truly this base has become his own half of the home. After a few days of traveling outside, the calculations of various agencies were temporarily thrown behind him. Sun Chang commanded with interest this newborn Decepticon, come. He is ready to take advantage of the time now to study the mystery of newborn Decepticon, which was born through Allspark. Chapter 89. Time is fleeting and half a month has passed. In the middle of the night, the desolate nuclear silo, which is almost 100 meters below the ground, is the deepest in a room that has been transformed into a laboratory. Sun Chang buried himself, facing the lines of data on a huge display in front of him, looking thoughtful on his face. So that's how it is. Let out a long breath. After a few days of hard work, Sun Chang finally successfully extracted his memory chip from the core of Blackout. Coupled with the newborn Decepticon little white mouse he named Dispensor, for his own experiment, combined with some ancient legends in Frenzy's memory, Sun Chang felt that he finally mastered something about core template, Spark, or even the secret of Cybertron civilization. Spark is a concept that has existed since the birth of Cybertron civilization. According to legend, Spark is where Cybertronian's source of life, soul is located. It is the most important part of robotic organisms. Without Spark, life cannot be conceived. Planet Times is rich in ancient times. It seems that there is still a period of peace that lasted a long time, that is, the beginning of Cybertron civilization. At that time, there was an extremely brilliant dynasty of primes on planet Cybertron. Unfortunately, it has not been verified. The Cybertronian of the beginning of civilization has a perfect life incubation system. Just like the human on Earth, young robotic organisms can be bred naturally from the mother and have Spark as soon as they are born. Later, planet Cybertron suffered the invasion of Quintesson, and the evil Quintesson brutally ruled Cybertron for a long time. Until anger broke out in exploitation, Cybertronian drove Quintesson through a revolution and ushered in the Golden Age, the most brilliant and technologically advanced on planet Cybertron. Cybertronian has used different template, that is, modules to distinguish scientists, soldiers, and workers from a long time ago. Just like the occupation of human, it should be the predecessor of core. The dynasty of Primes era is the most brilliant segment of Cybertron ancient civilization, so Sun Chang speculates that template may have been born in this period. Decay is always after the glory. It seems that at the end of Dynasty of Primes, the once enlightened ruling class gradually fell. Their long life made them begin to indulge in power struggle and enjoyment, so they began to exploit and have high and low minute. The conflict with alien civilization, such as Escher's, also exacerbated Cybertron's internal contradictions. Finally, those who were dissatisfied with the decadent rule of Dynasty of Primes emerged. A war that lasted for many years was finally started, and it finally represented that the exploited class uprisings successfully destroyed the Dynasty of Primes, and also personally destroyed the most glorious era in Cybertron civilization. It's just that the winners of this time failed to enjoy the peace for a long time. At the end of Dynasty of Primes, the Cybertronian began to have a racial perspective. The war faction, the colonists and the conspirators are in a group. They are eager to expand externally and have more and more power. This is the original Decepticon. Influence, which advocates self-examination, restraint and stop mining planet Cybertron resource, was also born. They advocated peace and called themselves Autobot. At the beginning of the birth of two great races, it was possible to restrain each other. After all, many Decepticon executives and Autobots' commander had fought side by side in the previous war against Dynasty of Primes. But as the differences between the two groups became more and more serious, especially around the distribution of planet Cybertron's sovereignty and Dynasty of Prime's heritage, the differences between Decepticon and Autobot became more and more irreconcilable. In the end, Decepticons, who had the advantage of the army, took the lead in initiating the conflict, the tough Autobot not to be outdone, the two sides split their territory and no one's expect. A war turned into a cruelty that almost destroyed planet Cybertron civilization civil war. The icy war continued for countless years, until the Cybertron earthquake continued, the volcano erupted, and even the sea began to dry up. Decepticon and Autobot realized that the civil war had brought planet Cybertron to the brink of destruction. They were forced to sit at the negotiating table, and after a difficult battle, they finally reached a truce agreement that was not at all binding. Successive wars have severely destroyed Cybertron civilization. No robotic organisms can be bred naturally. Resource exhaustion, civilized regression, and technology have caused huge faults. After the First Civil War ended, in order to maintain the survival of the race, both Decepticon and Autobot chose the same path tacitly, which destroyed all the interstellar coordinates, closed the planet Cybertron, and the clan entered the long-term stasis. It was not until 10,000 years ago that Decepticon and Autobot woke up from stasis again, and not long after that there was the second new civil war that lasted over 2 years. This concept did not appear in Cybertron Ancient Era. It is said that it might have been born in the hands of Shockwave. The great scientist of this Decepticons had to make up for the lack of natural gestation ability. Decepticons had insufficient strength, so it was based on template. I have developed a simplified and low-end version of Spark, and it also has the performance of template, which makes Decepticons have a continuous cannon fodder and workers. Therefore, strictly speaking, Sun Cheng previously used Spark as a kind of core, which was actually a misunderstanding. As for why Allspark newborn Decepticon was born after the radiation, it is far better than the low-rank Decepticon cannon fodder equipped with core. Sun Cheng also guessed the reason. The strength of Decepticon's mechanical body affects the performance of Core and Spark. Dispensor was originally just an ordinary coin-operated drink vending machine in Mission City, and the foundation was naturally not much better. Apart from this, Allspark, when transforming him, the information injected and energon are also very limited, which created the birth of an empty shelf with no spark but no corresponding strength. While staring at the screen to view the above data, I suddenly heard a sound of footsteps moving from far to near. The core swept Sun Cheng and suddenly knew that Forerunner, who was sent by him to carry out the mission a few days ago, came back. He chose to save it now, and saved his achievements from these days on the server's hard drive. Soon after, Forerunner's voice rang, "Master, you have told me that my task has been completed, and I am back." Forerunner is back, this is good news. Hearing that he mentioned that the task was completed, Sun Cheng couldn't stop smiling. Completed? Come, tell me. 10 days ago, Brazil Nebrina Trade Import and Export Company successfully received the first batch of American weapons and ammunition he purchased. Because Sun Cheng couldn't get away, he first gave instructions to spy in Nebrina Trade Import and Export Company, so that he would quietly transport the purchased weapons and ammunition to somewhere in Brazil. Sun Cheng had just purchased the planting soon in the park. Forerunner was then dispatched to Brazil by Sun. Sun Cheng gave him only one task: avoiding the sight of human, looking for a place in the vast Amazon rainforest or the rolling mountain range of Brazil, where the human footprint could not be reached. Prepare to build base 2. That's right, Cunning has already started preparing a new hiding place for himself. Forerunner immediately projected a map in front of him, pointed to the 2 places above and replied, I found 2 suitable places, one in the Amambe Mountains, and I found an underground karst cave between the mountains. It's very deep and hidden. The other is in Serra do Mar near the Brazil eastern coast. This national park has a valley that is full of gas, and humans can't get close at all. He did not choose the rainforest zone, but it was also expected by Sun Cheng. The poisonous snake in the rainforest area is nothing but a threat to human. However, the Amazon rainforest is full of rivers and equator. The hot and humid climate is not only hell for the equipment, but also for these robotic organisms. They will increase the core maintenance consumption. Forerunner then released dozens of photos of him near him for reference by Sun Cheng. The 2 locations have their own advantages. The Miasma Valley of Serra do Mar is closer to the Brazil eastern coast and also facilitates the transportation of the equipment, but the disadvantage is that it also exposes a higher probability. In contrast, Sun Cheng prefers the underground karst cave in the Amambe Mountains, which is very concealed. Although it will increase the difficulty of transportation equipment, they are robotic organisms after all, so it is more convenient to cross the mountains and so on than any human transportation means. Much more. Now he had a decision, tentatively, the underground karst cave in the Amambe Mountains. After I have identified the nearby mountains and geological structures, I will purchase materials and equipment through some channels and send them directly to Brazil. Yes, master. Forerunner went down quickly, leaving Sun Cheng alone in the laboratory, and remained silent for a while before he took a Nokia N73 cell phone from a machine in the laboratory last year on the market. Lifting the cell phone in front of him, Sun Cheng's eyes were blue light flashed, and the Nokia N73 cell phone immediately turned on and dialed a set of numbers. Do. After the phone rang for a while, he heard an impatient voice coming from the phone. Hey, didn't I tell you, don't you just call me? It was a man answering the phone, speaking English, but with a heavy Philadelphia accent. Follow me with this set, Colvin. Sun Cheng did not change his voice, and asked directly with his cold electronic voice, I have already sent money to your father's overseas account as you requested. You transferred the $3 million United States dollars 2 days ago. But I asked you to ask about things, and you haven't given me a reply yet. Quote. Before buying a spy from Brazil Nebrina Trade Import and Export Company, he successfully bypassed the attention of United States intelligence agencies and gained a lot of experience of weapons and ammunition from the U.S. military, which undoubtedly impressed Sun Cheng. His identity in this space-time is robotic organisms from planet Cybertron, destined not to appear in front of people easily. There are still quite a few things that are far from being solved through the internet. Sun Cheng also needs some human, especially those with capabilities human, to serve him. After the end of Battle of Mission City, he had the idea of establishing a human intelligence network dedicated to himself in this world. Later, in order to be able to grasp the movement of the United States government immediately, Sun Cheng especially wanted to know where the remains of Megatron and Blackout were placed by the U.S. military, and where did the cooperation between the United States government and Autobot go. As a result, while he tried to digest the Battle of Mission City bonus, he did not forget to start his own layout. United States has the world's largest intelligence agency, from government department subordinates to sea, land, and air force, with a total of more than 10 intelligence agencies. The Space-Time Russia, Pravda, published an article in 2006, speculating that within the United States alone, more than 270,000 employees work for its dozens of intelligence agencies. Statistics from Russians clearly overstate the facts, but the size of the United States intelligence community is indeed obvious to all. However, the large number of United States intelligence agencies and the complexity of personnel provide Sun Cheng with many conveniences. Using his own internet hacking ability, Sun Cheng obtained some management information from United States intelligence agencies in a very short time. Then one after another to monitor the bank card and fund consumption data of their individuals and family members worldwide, and soon some unclean guys entered Sun Cheng's site and became his prey. An intelligence analysis assistant supervisor Colvin Brennan working in the United States Director of National Intelligence Office is one of the most valuable targets. This guy is really not an ordinary person. He had served as a soldier and worked in the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency of the United States Department of Defense for nearly 10 years. Even when Sun Cheng tried to contact Colvin for the first time by applying the identity of a Russian embassy in the United States military officer, he even recorded this guy. So on next day, he learned that the bad luck Russia military officer who had been applied by himself was arrested by the FBI and deported by the United States government. It's a pity that Colvin's appearance is straightforward and one-sided, but Sun Cheng has a handle that he has to work for himself. This guy had been caught by the Israel intelligence agency Mossad's beauty trap a few years ago, and had a sexual relationship with a beautiful spy of Mossad and was threatened by the other party. Since then, Colvin has been promising under the Mossad USD offensive the act of the other party providing information. The data found by Sun Cheng alone shows that in the past few years, Colvin used his own identities to deposit over $4 million United States dollars in huge amounts of funds in bank cards processed overseas in 20 times. This money was eventually used by him as a relative to purchase a large amount of industry, gold, jewelry, and even scattered into some more hidden accounts. Unless Sun Cheng could easily hack the global banking internet, arbitrarily tune each group of information he wanted to trace, it's really hard to say whether Colvin could eventually follow. A fly can't attack an uncracked egg. Colvin himself clearly understood the truth, so after Sun Cheng contacted him for the second time, and casually gave a few transaction information between him and Mossad, this guy immediately recognized the facts and promised to be within the scope of his duties, provide him with some information. To reassure him to work for himself, Sun Cheng paid far more than Mossad, and paid him $2 million United States dollars for the first time only, and his first requirement was to let Colvin use his position. Inquire for information about robotic organisms appearing in Mission City. There was a long silence on the phone, and if he could still hear footsteps, Sun Cheng even suspected that Colvin had left the phone. He waited patiently for a while before he heard the voice, "This phone is from you. Are you sure you will not be monitored? Don't tell me you didn't find someone trying to disassemble the cell phone. Rest assured, it's safe." Using his spy function strengthened cell phone, built-in anti-listening program, the communication of two people directly through a high-altitude satellite of Iridium Communications Inc., Sun Cheng also specially infiltrated a trip to Iridium Communications Inc., especially stole the highest authority of a high-altitude satellite. It can be said that as long as it is not the user's own death, it does not need to worry about being monitored. I don't know if Colvin let go of it. Anyway, he didn't bother about this anymore, and quickly entered the topic. "Well, they heard about your business, but sir, we also need frank and open-minded. I asked the FBI to investigate. You are not a military officer in Russia." Quote. This guy is really not an ordinary character. No wonder that working for Mossad for so many years has not been exposed, and there is even further probability. Colvin was obviously saying things. Sun Cheng was not planning to expose his identity, so he refused very simply. "Frank and open-minded is okay, but not now. I have already paid for it. Please believe our strength, even if it is Samod, it is not equal to me." He nodded a bit vaguely, without threat in his words. The other party regained silence again, fearing that it is not trying to figure out which country's intelligence agency Sun Cheng belongs to. However, this guy is also very interesting, knowing that Sun Cheng has mastered his handle, and he has no way to get off the bus after receiving his money, and he quickly told him what he heard. Before half a month, a military base in Mission City did encounter an unknown creature attack. White House has confirmed that they are robotic organisms from the outer space. The military may have obtained a corpse of robotic organisms, which is currently unclear. Where is it stored? Sun Cheng listened carefully to the information he had heard, but couldn't help in the heart coldly snorted. This guy is really worthily as an intelligence background, half exposed and half hidden. Not only did not mention Autobot, even the two Decepticon mechanical bodies seized by the US military became a one to him. Knowing the other party's cunning, Sun Cheng was not angry. After all, they just got in touch, and the other party was forced to get on board again. I am afraid that the threat to him is full of anger. Naturally, it is also reluctant to work for him. Colvin is very cultivating value. So Sun Cheng is also willing to be in his spend more time on your body, there will be ample time for that later. However, not being angry does not mean that he is not broken, and some beats should be given. At the moment, he was low sneered and said, if only these, Colvin, you make us very disappointed, this task can only be counted as half of your completion. As far as I know, you United States government have recently been with those outer space creatures contacted. Your Excellency, in my capacity, there are not many things you can touch. Colvin was broken by his thoughts, but only the sound could hear some subtle changes, and soon recovered, and he was rather displeased and asked him. Don't play tricks, cooperation with us is definitely the best for you. Sun Cheng coldly smiled, I want to get all the information about the United States government and the United States military contact with those mechanical creatures in a week. As a reward, we are happy to create a few traffic accidents for you to let you hold you. All the relevant Mossad people go to see God. Quote. This statement obviously scared Colvin. He has worked with Mossad for many years. In his identity and status, I am afraid that he has already left detailed information in the Israel Intelligence Agency, which can be cleaned up if a few people die. It is no exaggeration to say that as long as there is a move on Sun Cheng's side, Mossad is famous for its fierceness. I am afraid that he will not be immediately recognized by the other party. It is really hard to say what will happen in the end. At the moment, he hurriedly shouted Sun Cheng, and even his voice softened. Don't mess with you 10 million, I'm understood, I will try to find out as soon as possible. Sun Cheng finally let him down. Sun Cheng did not care whether this guy was willing, anyway, he quickly cut the phone with the other party. Then I changed the cell phone again, contacted another NSA, United States National Security Agency agent who also had some control over him, and after giving him a new task, he hung up with satisfaction. Phone. The recent situation in United States is unpeaceful. There is a kind of oppression of wind and rain in the mountains. This is not really what Sun Cheng thinks about. In fact, during the half a month after the Battle of Mission City, in order to go outside to collect the machinery and equipment he ordered, he also went out several times. Instead of increasing, it is still being upgraded. This inexplicable discovery could not help increasing the uneasy hunch in Sun Cheng's heart. Onslaught has not contacted him recently. Starscream and his Decepticons seem to have disappeared recently, and those Autobots do not know where they are now. Because of too much uncertainty, he always feels that something will happen. Sun Cheng believed in his bad hunch, so he impatiently sent Forerunner to Brazil to prepare a base far away from United States, so he began to plan ahead in human and counteract it. Pick people who can provide information and other services for themselves. Do you want to take the initiative to contact Onslaught? Putting the cell phone back to the corner of the laboratory, Sun Cheng was a bit distressed. After Megatron's sudden appearance and unfathomable death, it seems to him that there is only Onslaught on Earth now, which is worthy of him being drawn and regarded as an ally at a critical moment. However, Sun Cheng also knows that he has gained a lot in Battle of Mission City. After continuously trying to absorb the information stored in those 4 Allspark fragments recently, he has realized that this thing is his greatest gain, and not to mention that these magical fragments have begun to slowly restore energon, just the stored inside. Information is almost enough for him to evolve again someday. Onslaught that failed to complete a complete evolution in the Sector 7 base, it is hard to say whether once the understood Allspark fragment exists, will it start on itself. It was precisely because he could not guess his idea, and at the same time, he was very unsure of his current strength. Sun Cheng hesitated and hesitated for this, and finally did not actively contact Onslaught, and invested in the dividend of Battle of Mission City. Time flies and another week passes in an instant. On this day, Sun Cheng was burying his head in the laboratory to study a small thing, a metal insect that looked a bit like a fly that was enlarged by a factor of 1,000 times, but with a more sinister face. Now, just say a word to hear. Master, Scout Decepticon, Safeguard, report to you. In the empty laboratory, a fierce sentence came out of the cold and stiff Chinese. The owner of voice is this metal insect in Sun Cheng's hand. Did you make it? Sun Cheng stared closely at this little brat in his hand, his face can't help with an excited smile. This little brat is his new discovery. The prototype is the mini insect Scout equipped in Frenzy's body. Perhaps once had a special experience with him, Allspark. The 4 insect scouts that have been stored somewhere in his mechanical body were transformed into 2 minicons when he last sneaked into Onslaught again to enter the Sector 7 base for the second time and touched Allspark. It's been a while since the Battle of Mission City ended, and watching him stay in Decepticon's world for almost 2 months this time, Sun Cheng once again thought of returning to the real world. However, the last time in the real world, due to various immature performances, he almost caught himself in danger, and he undoubtedly left a deep impression in his heart. At this time, Sun Cheng had to make enough preparations, and then return to the real world. Safeguard, change form. After giving a command to it, the insect-like Decepticon in front of him immediately obeyed and executed. Soon, its mechanical body began a series of precise changes until it was finally transformed into an ultra-thin laptop. Successful, Sun Cheng exerted his force on the fist, and it was hard to hide the excitement in his eyes. After the idea of returning to the real world, he stopped most of his work in the past few days. In addition to constantly trying to absorb a few pieces of information in Allspark Fragment, the rest of the time spent him for a mini-con. Some time ago, I digested some information about Cybertronian text, so Sun Cheng also mastered the technology of transforming the language, images, data, etc. on Earth into simple Cybertronian text, and transmitting it into the core of Decepticon. The mini-con with the ability of popular investigation is his test object. Thanks to the sufficient energy, Decepticon does not need to rest. Sun Cheng has enough time and energy to toss. As a result, in just 1 week, the results have already been achieved. A blue light flashed in his eyes, and after Safeguard transformed into an ultra-thin laptop, he suddenly sent out an intrusion data and invaded its core. Perhaps I didn't expect Sun Cheng to be in trouble suddenly. Safeguard was completely controlled by him without any resistance. With success, Sun Cheng found all the memory data in its core and erased it, and at the same time controlled his own core, input a brand new memory and control program he had already written into Safeguard's core. After finishing, he checked 3 times and confirmed that there were no omissions before recovering the intrusive data. With these 2 assurances, it should be fine. Putting Safeguard, which has maintained an ultra-thin laptop, back on a device in front of him, Sun Cheng looked at another camera next to Safeguard, and the corner of his mouth curved out. These 2 mini-cons are his 2 assurances for the real world he will return to. Sun Cheng completely erased their self-consciousness, rewritten a control program stored in their core. In this way, although they have lost their ability to think for themselves, it also facilitates his control in reality. Don't underestimate these 2 Decepticons. They are no worse than Frenzy in the body possession at the beginning of Sun Cheng crossed over. Although the energon stored in the core is only 300 to 400, it seems to be because he has been exposed to Allspark twice with Sun Cheng in his mechanical body. The 2 mini-con mechanical body materials are also from Sun Cheng, the mechanical body of the same type as divided into the same alloys in the past, and ordinary weapons can't destroy them at all. Moreover, these 2 mini-con are also equipped with weapons. As for whether they can be brought back to reality, Sun Cheng hasn't really worried about this. Before he even brought the core of Forerunner back to reality, it makes no sense that the core can be brought back, but he can't take Decepticon back. The finger lightly tapped on 2 mini-cons that had fallen into the stasis state and could only be woken up by entering special wake-up information. Sun Cheng quickly turned his gaze to the side, a Nokia N73 cell phone that had just received a dial-in signal. Pick it up with 2 fingers and lift it in front of yourself. Sun Cheng's eyes were blue light flashed, and the phone was connected immediately. You kept me waiting, Colvin. He first spoke indifferently. I thought you would be soon. I am just an assistant supervisor under the DNI, United States Director of National Intelligence, not the Director of National Intelligence. Besides, the level of intelligence confidentiality you want is far from being accessible to ordinary people. Over the phone, Colvin's voice was deliberately lowered. Sun Cheng lightly snorted. And what about the information I want? Yes, but how did you pass it to you? Photograph the information with the cell phone I gave you, then click on the emergency transfer function in the cell phone, lock the photo and transfer it. Is it safe? Single-line satellite transmission, data is not monitored. Okay then. After waiting for a while, Sun Cheng heard the opposite voice. I'm done, you pay attention. Quickly walked to a server in the base, did some operations to enter the database of Iridium Communications Inc. Through the secret door left by him, and soon found several photos transmitted by Colvin. Sun Cheng will, after zooming in, I watched it carefully, and then said to the phone side with satisfaction, "The thing has been received, you did good, I will temporarily contact you again on this side." In addition, it is still the previous account, it's still $2 million United States dollars, your reward this time. Quote. After hanging up the phone, Sun Cheng frowned. As the photo of the White House Chief of Staff Bolton meeting Optimus Prime. It seems that Autobot may have reached some agreement with the United States government. However, when President Cheney held the United States National Security Council meeting in Pentagon 2 days ago, the Secretary of Defense John Keller's nest plan. What about Autobot? Quote. At Colvin's level, it's clear that these are the limit. Although Sun Cheng suspected that the cloud was more prosperous, he did not force him to ask more inside information, at least not now. The alloy palm rubbed his chin, and Sun Cheng frowned for a while, still not having much clue. He simply threw these troubles aside for a while, grabbed the 2 Decepticons waiting to be awakened, and walked to a laboratory next to him. With a brief dizziness, once again eyes opened, Sun Cheng found himself back in the real world again, back in his bedroom at Nandu University of Technology. It's amazing. Although this is not the first experience, the strangeness and magic of the cross between 2 worlds still made him clicking one's tongue in wonder. Beside him, 2 ultra-thin laptops turned from Decepticon and the camera are lying quietly on the ground. Although it has been speculated before, I really found myself bringing 2 Minicon back to the real world. Sun Cheng couldn't hide his excitement. This time returns reality. He brought back a total of 3 things. In addition to these 2 Minicons, there is an alloy case that leans on his leg like a portable briefcase. Picking up the ultra-thin laptop and camera from the ground, and just preparing to put them on his computer desk, Sun Cheng noticed that it was a messy piece, filled with various small items. You can see how frantic and hurried he went when he fled from real world to otherworld. It was after seeing these things that Sun Cheng's mind faded away from the otherworld's time in the past 2 months, and this brought him back to life again. Xiao Hong, I don't care who you are, it's not finished. He couldn't help but turned a little cold. He sneered. All the things on the computer table were pushed into the drawer at random, and even the IBM laptop that he liked was thrown on the bed. After the table was completely cleaned, Sun Cheng picked up the heavy alloy case and put it on the table. This, the portable alloy case he brought back from Otherworld, is a good thing, although not less than the 2 Minicons, it is also very important. This is the control platform designed by Sun Cheng in order to control 2 Minicons in reality. There are dozens of Minicon Scout Decepticon variants and function completion solutions stored in it. In order to facilitate myself to control these 2 Minicons in the real world, Sun Cheng erased their consciousness, so there is no this control platform, and the use of the 2 Minicons it brings from Otherworld is scrapped. Mostly. The alloy case is relatively large, similar to the ordinary portable briefcase, but it is very heavy, about 20 pounds. Use your finger to lightly touch a red button next to the handle. A screen of 5-6 inches appears on a screen in the alloy case direct. The top is a row of up to 24 spaces, and the bottom is an inexplicable list consisting of 6 English letters, 10 Arabic numerals and 4 punctuation marks. This is the password system designed by Sun Cheng for himself. It uses a 24-bit mixed password list. Anyone except him himself got this briefcase, and it was easily cracked and opened in a short time. After skillfully entering the 24 password on the screen, a metallic sound crackled in the alloy case, which originally seemed to be welded together, and the alloy case that barely saw the gap at the interface suddenly exposed some gaps. Because the correct password was entered to open it, Sun Cheng flipped it again and opened the box. Inside, the upper part of the box shows a huge display, and the lower part is a keyboard, which is basically the same as an ordinary computer, except that there are some weird function keys composed of special characters and 6 sizes. The same jack. Apart from this, there are 4 special data cables obviously different from the Earth standard in the alloy case, and a thin bag wrapped in silk. Taking out the pouch, Sun Cheng took the granular item inside and squeezed it into the corner of the table. The bag contains 10 million United States dollars worth of red sapphire and diamonds, all of which are finished products, and most of them are from the hands of some Europe and America masters, which he bought on the United States market of Otherworld through various means. Although it also means to bring them to the real world to realize, but this bag of gems is actually a test sample he used to verify the crossed-over carrying item rules. The last time Realworld was returned from Otherworld, Sun Cheng's 2 weapons hidden in the server were taken back unexpectedly. He had thought of this suddenly after preparing to return to reality. This was a temporary intention. The purchase made anonymously from several jewelers in United States a few days before returning seemed to have caused quite a stir. Nowadays, he really confirmed the last discovery. Other small things hidden in a portable item approved by the spherical space can also be crossed over with it. I discovered a new rule about spherical space. In the future, Sun Cheng will undoubtedly have a lot of room for operation. The control platform has 2 built-in laptop batteries that he upgraded with Decepticon's strengthening ability, which can store up to 2 milliamps of electricity, which is enough to support the control platform to continue to use for a long time without being connected to a power source. It is also very convenient. After Sun Cheng started the control platform, a special data cable was plugged into a port of the control platform, and the other end was connected to the socket under the camera. Soon, a set of prompts appeared on the control platform. The model data has been successfully matched in the database. Do you need to enter the activation code to activate the model? This is naturally because he deliberately entered deceptive information in order to prevent the control platform from being lost under special circumstances. The true meaning is only understood by him. Determine. After clicking the OK button, a 36-bit input box will pop up on the screen immediately then when the control platform is turned on. Sun Cheng has already remembered 2 sets of 2-digit mixed activation codes, and they are very skilled. After entering the correct activation code, the screen immediately reminded, the activation code is entered, it is correct, the model will be activated soon, please be patient. A set of data composed of Cybertronian text was quickly entered into the camera from the control platform. This has been quietly on the table. This camera from the small Scout Decepticon transformation quickly began to wriggle up. Only 3-4 seconds later, it retransformed back to the insect form from the camera form, and the blue light flashed in his eyes looked towards the slightly nervous Sun Cheng. Master, Scout Decepticon, vengeance, report to you. The stiff, cold mechanical sound came from his mouth. The familiar Chinese made Sun Cheng feel relieved. He knew that he had succeeded. Master, Scout Decepticon, Safeguard, report to you. After activating Safeguard again, Sun Cheng took control of the 2 minicons and took a few steps each. Just preparing to continue the experiment, a familiar music melody suddenly came from the desk of didn't expect, and his cell phone rang. Taking a closer look at the cell phone, his eyes flickered, and after a moment of contemplation, the phone was connected. Hey, Ah-chung, is there something going on at the school? It was still the familiar young female voice, with a bit of eagerness and care in the tenderness, which made his heart warm. This woman is not someone else, it is his elder sister, Yi Chi. Sister, don't think about it. I didn't make it clear just now. Wasn't I applying for entrepreneurial funds with the school this semester to engage in entrepreneurial project? Recently, I'm too busy. I'm afraid you won't have time to accompany you. Although only a few minutes have passed in the real world, Sun Cheng has spent another 2 months in the other world. With such a long period of precipitation and reflection, he has no longer the previous confusion, and the tone is calm and gentle, so that people can no longer feel the excessive emotional fluctuations. Maybe I didn't feel anything on the phone this time. After tangling the letter suspiciously for a few more words, I finally hung up the phone. Trouble. After hanging up the phone, Sun Cheng frowned and threw the cell phone aside. Until the end, he did not get an affirmative answer from elder sister. It seems that she made up her mind to come and see herself. Tomorrow, completely solve the trouble on Nandu's side. His eyes turned to the 2 Scout Decepticons who were quietly staying on the table because he didn't get his order. Sun Cheng was sure that he would no longer worry about these chores in reality, and continued to try to control the 2 Scout Decepticon. It was late at night, time passed by inadvertently, and soon it was time to turn off the lights in the bedroom. The sudden dimming of the light in the room awakened the ultra-thin laptop performance that was groping Safeguard into Sun Cheng from concentrated attention completely. After rubbing his eyes to adjust himself to the darkness in the room, he subconsciously looked towards the status bar in the lower right corner of the ultra-thin laptop, only to find that Safeguard could still continue to stay connected to the internet through the captured wireless internet signal. Interestingly, he temporarily stopped exploring the ultra-thin laptop performance that Safeguard had changed, and began to try to use it to play online. He first tried to open the browser and randomly opened several domestic web portals, and found that the network speed was not only stable but also very fast. After playing for a while to verify the network speed, Sun Cheng suddenly remembered that when he returned to reality last time, he used the name of Cybertron Studios to upload his new XP system that had been simplified before and had been optimized to a certain degree. Windows XP Home. Now I opened the website and clicked in. I was just about to log into my publishing account to see the results from the background. Didn't expect peripheral vision glanced unexpectedly. I actually caught the familiar one in a recommended corner near the bottom of the home page icon. This unexpected discovery surprised Sun Cheng somewhat. Although Windows XP Home has declined in recent years as Microsoft has stopped supporting XP system, a dying, starved camel is still bigger than a horse. In the end, it is also the largest operating system exchange and recommendation website ever used by some, and has been some work. The work uploaded to Windows XP Home by the rumor software, without certain clicks and downloads, is difficult to get the favor of the website and arrange the recommendation on the home page. He couldn't help but look in, and there was a smile on his face soon. Pure Version XP System, Release Time, April 2016, 04, Publisher, Cybertron Studios, Approval Editor, Blue Star, Recommendation Index, 14 stars. Just 2 days after uploading, didn't expect has downloaded more than 2 times. Looking at the comment area at the bottom of the release page, it was unexpectedly very lively. I rely on good stuff. Cybertron is simply a technology, an old system more than 10 years ago, which is optimized to match the latest version of Shin 10 and must be recommended. All the extra function plugins have been deleted. The black-hearted Microsoft has really stuffed too many useless things in the system. After it has been completely simplified, it is simply hanging. It is highly recommended. Always use XP. I bought a new computer some time ago and changed to Windows 7 after all kinds of uncomfortable, just prepared to switch back to the old version of XP. Didn't expect a friend recommended this one. After using it, it just slipped away and praise like. Worthily is pure version. All the useless things are deleted, almost all the things that are not used by ordinary person. Cybertron Studios. This is a strong behavior XP for 10 years. After all, it only took 2 days to upload, and the comment area is lively and can't go anywhere. There are only 100 comments in total. However, Sun Cheng looked patiently all the way, and found that 99% of the comments were all kinds of likes, recommendations, and praise. Rarely, some complaints can be seen that they are just bones in the eggs, but some are engaged in programming. Relevant people complained that he deleted some of the plugins he needed in the official working software, which was purely black and black, but there was none. I found this pure version XP system that I uploaded seems to be in flames. Sun Cheng couldn't help a thought flashed through the mind and hurriedly logged into my publishing account. Sure enough, I saw the official message sent to me by Windows XP Home in the background. Hello dear publisher, I am the review editor of Windows XP Home Blue Star. After our testing, our website believes that the work you have posted has the value of signing and promotion. Please see this short site. After that, contact the contracted editor as soon as possible. Windows XP Home Contracted Editor, Contact 919-107-2532. Quote. Sure enough, Windows XP Home sent me an internal text message to contact me, but Sun Cheng was a little curious that this privately modified non-copyright work actually has the value of signing and promotion. You should know that the reason why he uploaded this pure version XP system at first was that it was too wasteful to only use it by himself, but he did not give his Cybertron Studios a wave of advertisements to get some popularity and attention. What does it mean? Didn't expect will lead to these things. After a little thought, Sun Cheng thought about it. Anyway, he uploaded it to earn popularity for his Cybertron Studios. If he can get the recommendation of Windows XP Home, it will save a lot of effort. It is definitely not a bad thing. At the moment, he quickly logged into his Pandu account that had not been used for a long time, entered the account of the contracted editor, and added his friend request with a note on his message. Immediately after preparation, he was about to get off the plane. What he did not expect was that a message popped up immediately on the U side, and the other party agreed to his friend request. Actually still, Sun Cheng was a little surprised, looking at the gender of the other party's remarks as female, but he didn't expect so late that the other party has not yet rested. Drips. With a familiar message prompt, a dialog box quickly popped up on U. He clicked in and took a look. Isn't it? And initiated a chat with him. Hello, are you the publisher of Pure Version XP, Cybertron Studios? It's me, Editor hello. Oh, hello, great. Pure Version XP is really a great work. I didn't believe it when Blue Star recommended it to me yesterday. Who knows that after downloading it and found out, this is really a great work. Like simplify the works that are so pure and do not affect the system stability at all, let alone domestic. It is difficult to find the second paragraph on some well-known Microsoft system forums abroad. So greatly, I would like to ask if you are interested in is our website signed. Quote. It should be said that this guy's typing speed is really fast, but Sun Cheng got up and took half a glass of water. When he came back, he saw one by one, and a dozen dialogues popped out. Can I ask, the copyright of XP is in the hands of Microsoft. Like this work, it is generally unauthorized. How to commercialize it? He is really curious about this. China, except after the modern Xinhai Revolution, especially after President Yu Chen came to power, the protection of copyright is still very strict. Even if Microsoft is an outsider, but they have not obtained their authorization, Sun Cheng is really curious. How does Windows XP Home prepare to promote the Pure Version XP he made? The other party's reply was quick and direct. It's natural not to do it clearly, but it's completely okay to skirt the line legally or morally. You have also bought a system disk, you think, the general Microsoft's genuine system disk on the market used to sell a few thousand, even if the price has been reduced every year in recent years, and now a cheap Windows 1000 genuine disk has to be 8 to 100. Although domestic supports the genuine version, but how many families are willing to put a 200 yuan Chinese finished disk without buying it? Go and buy him a Microsoft genuine version. What? Understood. Sun Cheng immediately understood that feelings are pirated dishes. This is indeed skirt the line legally or morally. It is really not difficult to pirate disks. Small workshops invested by hundreds of thousands can be used. It's very troublesome for Microsoft to check it. Even if they track down the Windows XP Home websites, they can also infer that the shared works on the website are randomly adopted by private pirates. After all, it is like the system they developed by promoting XP system. There are really no restrictions on downloading on Exchange sites. Let's talk about it in detail. After learning that Windows XP Home sold a dish license, he could only get 3 cents, and brought back a lot of valuable jewelry from Otherworld. Sun Cheng immediately signed the contract for Windows XP Home. Interest. However, out of the idea of advertising for Cybertron Studios, he finally agreed to authorize Windows XP Home, allowing them to use their own works at will, but only if it was promoted on or off the site, or sold on a dish at all times. It must be marked that the work was produced by Cybertron Studios. The logo must not be erased, and the manufacturer's information embedded in the installation package should be taken out separately. I don't know if it's a relationship that runs from time to time. Before preparing for Pandu, Sun Cheng randomly opened the mailbox and planned to see if his reply to the vulnerability acquisition platform Zerodium came. When I thought about it, I just saw a bunch of unread emails in it, and there was indeed one more English replied email, and the received time was exactly 3 hours ago in the real world. At that time, if Sun Cheng remembered correctly, he was probably blocked in the alley by the people brought by Xiao Hong, and he almost failed to escape. Although the 10 million United States dollars jewelry used in the experiment was brought back, but these things also need some fake procedures to take action in the reality, which is indeed a bit troublesome. Therefore, Sun Cheng still values the huge reward from Zerodium. Then he clicked in and looked at the mail from the foreigner. Dear Mr. Sun Cheng, please allow me to pay tribute to you and your team, Cybertron Studios. Our testers have verified the data you sent, and confirmed the existence of iOS vulnerability. At the same time, Zerodium will pay your team an attack of 54,000 United States dollars according to the agreement, and hope that you can complete the follow-up data as soon as possible. In the email, you mentioned that you found two extremely secret high-risk vulnerability in iOS. Zerodium is very interested in this. I hope to receive your reply as soon as possible. Please don't worry about remuneration. Zerodium is a very reputable platform. Quote. Zerodium claimed to be very credible, but it almost made Sun Cheng laugh. In Europe and America world, especially within the United States, this vulnerability acquisition platform, which has been fighting Microsoft, Google, and Apple since its birth, is notorious. Just Sun Cheng heard about it. I don't know how much about Microsoft Windows, Google search vulnerability, and iOS vulnerability were acquired by Zerodium and made as a profit tool and sold to Europe and America governments, intelligence agencies, and some internet companies. It can survive. It's not easy now. However, although Zerodium's reputation is stinky, Sun Cheng has never heard of rumors of being embezzled by selling vulnerability to Zerodium. Although the bank card has opened the foreign exchange function, but I do not know why there is no cell phone text notification. In order to determine whether the other party had sent the money, Sun Cheng had to use the cell phone to log into the Farmers Bank of China app, went up to verify it, and found that his bank account had 54,000 United States dollars in foreign exchange. The reward of 54,000 United States dollars is not high compared to the number of vulnerabilities he sent. However, the stingy Apple Inc. immediately felt that it was not unacceptable. After confirming that Zerodium hit his due remuneration, Sun Cheng found the USB flash drive in which he stored vulnerability from the drawer. After reading it with the ultra-thin laptop that Safeguard turned into, he got a new email. Not only to complete all the follow-up materials that were not completed last time, but also to release a part of the two high-risk vulnerability that the other party is most anxious to obtain. For the rest, he will wait until Zerodium gets the reward, and he is very satisfied with the reward. It took a little time for these two things. When Sun Cheng was already too sleepy, when it was time to go to bed and rest, the time was past 1 a.m. Before going to sleep, he gave Safeguard an order to invade Nandu City Police Station. After finding information about Xiaohong and his address as soon as possible, he climbed into the bed and quickly went to stasis. Decepticon's mechanical body can go without rest for a long time, because for the first time after returning to the real world, Sun Cheng has slept soundly and deeply because he has never rested so peacefully in the past 2 months of Otherworld. Wake up until late next morning. He rubbed his eyes and climbed down from the bed, without rushing to pick up the cell phone to check the time. Sun Cheng walked straight to the balcony and opened the window, breathing in fresh air. He stretched his waist for a while, feeling that the distress was almost gone, and then he walked back to the house. Safeguard, report the situation. After taking the water glass and walking to the water dispenser, Sun Cheng poured himself half a glass of water and asked while drinking. As his voice asked, the ultra-thin laptop that had been quietly placed on his computer desk suddenly twisted, and soon became an alloy insect with a sinister face. Master, I invaded the Household Registration Management Center of Nandu City Police Station, confirmed the local household registration and named Xiaohong, and there were only 20 males between the ages of 30 and 3 years old. After further precise search, one of them is currently working in Zhongzhen shipyard. The license plate number is South L5234L. It has been checked that the driving trajectory of the vehicle in the most recent half a month is basically in Zhongzhen City, and there is no sign of returning to Nandu. This is his photo. It projected a picture of a man. Sun Cheng walked to the table and sat down. He glanced at Xiaohong, who was not the one he knew. After watching Safeguard nodded, he expressed satisfaction. Go on. Okay, master. The second man named Xiaohong lives in the countryside of Chunggao district and runs a grocery store. Before he finished speaking, Sun Cheng was interrupted. Not him, let me introduce the last one. Yes, he was interrupted by his introduction. Safeguard's performance was a bit dull, but there was no hint of complaint. It soon continued to introduce the information about the third Xiaohong. The third Xiaohong is 3 years old, is Nandu Baitong Investment Company boss, and has a lot of cases in Nandu City Police Station, a total of 3 drunk driving once, fighting 27 times, etc. This is his photo. When he heard the introduction, Sun Cheng had a hunch. It was expected that this Xiaohong might be the one he knew. When Safeguard projected his photo, he immediately determined that it was this person. I finally found it. He sneered and shook the glass in his hand and ordered, Safeguard, bring up his more detailed information. I want his family situation, including his current address. Xiao Hong was born in a single family, whose father is unknown. Her mother's name is Xiao Yan. She is 45 years old and she is originally from Xuanzhou. She currently lives in Anqing and runs a local furniture store. And, Sun Cheng frowned, but he only wanted a piece of information about Xiao Hong's family that he wanted most. No, there is a very important message that I haven't had time to report to you. Safeguard seemed to have not heard the dissatisfaction in his words and continued. Just 2 hours ago, Xiao Hong was determined by the police to have died, and he died together with several other people belonging to the Baitong Investment Company, and the police have opened a case to investigate. What? Sun Cheng shook his hand, and the glass he was carrying immediately fell into his arms and splashed a wet piece. Hiss. He quickly stood up and swept the disposable cup to the ground, shaking his clothes wet with tea, and walked to the bedroom door, preparing to take a towel and wipe it. The person just walked to the door and didn't come to remember to reach out and pull the towel. Suddenly, Sun Cheng gave a gray-yellow item under his feet to attract attention. What? He was lightly exclaimed, but found the ground not far behind the door, not knowing when a large envelope came out. Quickly stooped down to pick it up, Sun Cheng took it in his hand and found that the front and back of the envelope were clean, no stamps were attached, and no writing was left, but the seal was glued on with glue. It's really strange, the mail gave me no information. What do you mean? He pinched the envelope, and if he could feel that there must be something bulging inside, he felt that this might be a prank. Because one hand was busy groping for the envelope, after being pulled by one side of the splashed clothes, it quickly stuck to his skin again. Stimulated by the humid water vapor, Sun Cheng suddenly shivered back, sobered up, quickly pulled a towel from the door, clipped the unnamed letter to his armpit, and wiped the water on his clothes. Safeguard, continued to say Xiao Hong's murder case. Soon he returned to his seat and sat down. He threw the unnamed letter on the table. Sun Cheng frowned and asked Safeguard again. Yes, there is not much information I have found at the moment, mainly because there is no more progress on the police side. I just temporarily defined this murder case as a vendetta and investigated it in this direction. Vendetta. Sun Cheng frowned more and asked, can you get the photos of the murder case scene? Safeguard did not speak, and directly projected a set of dozens of photos in front of him. Let Sun Cheng look at it. Perhaps also used to see dead people in Otherworld. When he saw dozens of corpse photos in front of him, instead of feeling a little uncomfortable, Sun Cheng stepped forward and took a closer look. It didn't matter at this point, his brows quickly sagged. Although it was very dark that night, his eyes were not blind enough to be seen in front of him and he couldn't see the other person's appearance. So after only a few glances, Sun Cheng quickly identified the dead people in the photos. All of them were people who surrounded him in the alley that night, and there were not many, all here. Good guys, all died under the sword, and all were killed. The murderer is really cruel. After carefully discerning the photos for a while, Sun Cheng quickly understood why the police would consider this a vendetta. Knives and knives penetrated the throat and heart, and the perpetrators were obviously a ruthless character. However, what puzzled him was that this guy also seemed to have hatred against Xiao Hong. Not only did he stab a deadly knife in his heart, he also left as many as 10 marks on his body. Chu Shen can be described. If the murderer didn't start on his face, I'm afraid that even Sun Cheng would not recognize this corpse master as Xiao Hong. The doubts are doubtful. No matter who the perpetrators are, Xiao Hong died, and he still died in his own home, which undoubtedly saved him a lot of things. At the moment, he waved Safeguard to retract the projection. After thinking for a while, he ordered it again, you're staring at this murder case. Remember to report to me if you have any new situation. Okay, Master. After Safeguard received the new order, he responded dumbly and retransformed back to the ultra-thin laptop form. Like vengeance, he lay quietly on the computer desk in front of him to protect his safety. Come. Sun Cheng's mood suddenly improved after he lost his mind. Can't help looked towards the unknown letter on the table, took it in his hand and played with it for a while. Sela ripped open the seal. At the next moment, he poured out 2 golden invitations with a faint rose fragrance from the envelope. 2. Regal China Investment Corporation. We are honored to send you an invitation. International Genetic Technologies will hold the 4 Road Investor Meeting on the private island, Isla Nublar in Costa Rica on April 23. Please be present at that time. Dr. Hammond will have unexpected surprises. Quote. Reminder. Isla Nublar is a private island and there are no international flights or other means of transportation. Please be sure to keep this invitation letter. At Lavris Hotels in San Jose, we have arranged a receptionist who will use it at that time. John Hammond is looking forward to your visit. The above is all the information on the golden invitation letter, and all of it is printed in English. Although the paper of the invitation letter is not a general product that can be printed everywhere on the market at a glance, he still doubts this thing. An invitation letter from a company called International Genetic Technologies to Regal China Investment Corporation. How could this thing come to me? It was still stuffed in under the door. Fingertips flicked gently on the invitation letter, and Sun Cheng held this golden invitation letter that didn't look like a fake at first glance. After thinking about it for a while, there was no idea at all. He quickly picked up the second golden invitation letter, and found that the above information was the same as the first one, and there was nothing superfluous and useful. After shaking the envelope again and finding that there was nothing else in it, Sun Cheng reinserted the two invitations back into the envelope and threw it again on the table. After pondering for a while, he failed to get through his curiosity and shouted to Safeguard. Safeguard searches online for information about Regal China Investment Corporation, International Genetic Technologies, Isla Nublar and John Hammond. As soon as Safeguard's screen lit up, the cold electronic sound immediately replied, "As you wish, Master." Countless flowing light flashes on the screen, and a row-by-row binary matrix consisting of 0 and 1 is beating continuously, appearing at a very fast frequency and disappearing again. After Sun Cheng glanced for a few moments, he could not help feeling his eyes sore. He had to turn his head to the side. Safeguard's search only lasted 2-3 minutes, and soon it stopped, and subconsciously transformed back to insect form again to report back to him. Regal China Investment Corporation, established in 2002, is currently the most famous risk and angel investment company in China. The most famous investment case was the acquisition of 2003% of Panda Technology's shares with a $40 million investment in 17.5, bringing it up to 2000. It is famous for its super high return. The chairman is Li Jinping, whose great-grandfather is the first and second vice president Li Yuanong during the Republic of China. Quote. International Genetic Technologies, whose establishment time could not be verified, boss is John Hammond, affiliated country United States, the main business, biotechnology, genetics, etc., is currently in a lawsuit due to the accidental death of many employees of the company. Isla Nublar, a private island 190 kilometers away on the Costa Rica west coast. The owner is Dr. John Hammond. It is currently suspected of being used in the development of a commercial project called Jurassic Park. According to local media reports on Costa Rica, fleet and purchasing teams often go to Nublar. Quote. John Hammond, entrepreneur from United States, CEO of International Genetic Technologies, Columbia University Ph.D. in Paleontology. Family composition. Wife has died, only one daughter, is currently busy in divorce law, and there are grandson and granddaughter. The rest investigation. According to information, John Hammond is obsessed with archaeology, especially prehistoric creatures archaeology. In the past, he has sponsored dozens of archaeology teams for archaeological excavations in the United States, Mexico, and South America. Jurassic Park. Sun Cheng was stunned, and his eyes were bright. The last time he returned to reality from Otherworld, he had witnessed a huge change in the mysterious spherical space. A parallel world suspected of being called Jurassic Park by the spherical space, was melted into another world under the influence of an unpredictable force. Sun Cheng never doubted everything he saw. Although the mysterious of spherical space has not yet been figured out by him, it is under the effect of spherical space that he has experienced several times from real world to Otherworld, and then returned to reality from Otherworld crossed over, even in Otherworld obtained a body with alien robotic organism different from human, and brought two mini-con back to the real world. Therefore, whenever he remembered the last time he witnessed two fusion of worlds in the spherical space, he had been wondering that the spherical space was most likely somewhere in the space he did not know, and he captured a fusion of two worlds. The new parallel world is like the other world where Decepticon and Autobot are located. He even suspected that in the near future, he is likely to cross over to the other world where Decepticon and Autobot are located, and enter the world after the fusion under the effect of spherical space. However, Sun Cheng really did not think about the existence of another kind of probability. I am in the real world, is it the world after the fusion? Forcibly suppressing the uneasiness and excitement in my heart, Sun Cheng only felt that the frequency of heartbeat in a moment was much faster than usual. This reality is so amazing. He was not born in science and engineering, he is not completely ignorant of the knowledge of the universe, he still knows a little. But also because of only some superficial knowledge, Sun Cheng will feel that the fusion between two parallel universes is too incredible, so from the very beginning, the fusion of worlds is not connected to reality at all. Today, two mysterious invitations that do not know who was caught in his bedroom actually involved a commercial project also named Jurassic Park. In a flash, Sun Cheng felt happy and surprised. It took a while for people to sit on the chairs and think for a while. Safeguard, continue to investigate all the intelligence and news about Jurassic Park online. In addition, invade the campus monitoring system of Nandu University of Technology and call out all the videos that have entered and exited my dormitory building in the past few hours. Give me the information. Mysterious's invitation letter has something to do with Jurassic Park. Sun Cheng couldn't help but get interested in the mysterious person who stuffed it with himself, and ordered Safeguard to investigate. In order to prevent theft and fire, as well as to prevent possible crimes outside the school, Nandu University of Technology is equipped with surveillance equipment. However, the installation location of the monitor is mostly more sophisticated. In addition to some experimental buildings and important facilities in the school, such as monitoring equipment for male and female dormitory buildings, they are generally installed at the entrance and emergency exit of the first floor. As for the dormitory building, even in the corridor of the male dormitory building, in order to protect the privacy of students, there is no monitor installed. This will undoubtedly increase the difficulty of Sun Cheng's tracing. Although Safeguard did not spend much time, he called up the video of the entrance and exit of his bedroom in the past day, but wanted to rely on the video at the entrance of the bedroom to track down who invited the invitation letter into Sun Cheng's bedroom. Finding a golden sand in the sand pile is much easier. By the way, look through Nandu University of Technology's student status management system to see if you can find a list of all the students in this dormitory building. Nanchang University of Technology's dormitory allocation criteria are actually not clear by Sun Cheng. He only remembers that he and the people in the dormitory were originally arranged by the homeroom teacher. As for whether the school has made special statistics, no one can tell. However, this is also a tracing path, so he recommended Safeguard. The human body is no better than Decepticon. From last night to now, he has not eaten for a long time, and he feels very hungry. After leaving the dormitory to wash in a hurry, Sun Cheng changed into a dress, brought a wallet and cell phone, and went to the cafeteria. The person just arrived at Canteen 4, which is the closest to his dormitory. He accidentally saw a familiar silhouette waiting in line for a meal. Isn't it Lu Lan? Old Lu. Sun Cheng froze a moment, thinking for a while before remembering the last time he returned to the real world. He made an appointment with Lu Lan to repay the money, but that night he wrapped up the Xiaohong group and returned to the bedroom. It was too late, and I did not know if he had come to find him. Fortunately, I brought my wallet. The last time he withdrew money, he remembered the matter of repaying the money. He took some cash from the bank and brought it with him, just to return the money from Lu Lan. Seeing him now, Sun Cheng walked over with a smile, patting his shoulder, who was playing with the cell phone with his head down. Old Lu, come out for a meal. He slapped him on the shoulder. Lu Lan subconsciously shivered, and quickly lifts the head to take a look before he noticed Sun Cheng. Achong, he took the cell phone back, nodded, yeah, just after class, hungry. Go, don't line up. Sun Cheng pulled him up and left the queue. Go eat outside, I'll treat you, and return the money owed to you. The relationship during college is still relatively simple, and there are indeed urban and cunning people, but compared to most people, it is relatively simple, otherwise he was also impossible before. In the class, only relying on the status of a class leader, you will be 1,000 with my classmates. I am 2,000 borrowed 10,000 blocks. Upon hearing that he was going to repay the money, Lu Lan's face suddenly showed a happy look, and his chest was lightly traced, said with a smile, Okay, it's been a few days since I graduated. I can follow you in the future. It's not too long for Big Boss to have a mixed meal. Quote. Sun Cheng smiled slightly. Two people one after the other left the school, came to the nearest snack street near the school, just picked a small shop with a private room, ordered 2 cool 2 vegetarian 2 meat a few dishes after that, boss took another box of beer. If you order too much, we can't finish it too much, it's a waste. Lu Lan has a normal family background. If he hadn't recognized his squad leader's face, I'm afraid he would not lend him money. Although 2,000 is not much, it must have been saved by him. Sun Cheng laughed. It's okay, I didn't eat breakfast, and I'm hungry now. Perhaps there are not many people coming to the restaurant for dinner at this time, and boss quickly fried 3 or 4 dishes for delivery. Sun Cheng took the initiative to open a bottle of beer and handed it over. After pouring himself a full glass, he lifted it and gave him a soft touch. Old Lu, I really want to thank everyone before. Entrepreneurship, but not enough thinking and preparation and so on are not enough, and I have suffered a lot. Thanks to your support, I did not fall down. Quote. Lu Lan poured the beer in one gulp and wiped his mouth. I haven't eaten pork but haven't seen pig run. How can entrepreneurship be so simple? Everyone knows it. This is true. After all, Nandu University of Technology is a higher education institution with a domestic second to none. After graduating from Nandu University of Technology every year, there are not many students who try to start a business. How many can be successful? Really not much. Most of them either end up as office workers or turn to civil servants. Entrepreneurship is by no means a technology. The world is right, the lack of one is the meteor, and the lack of two is the thorny road. If there is no one of the three, it is probably like him before. Toasting, Sun Cheng quickly killed a bottle of beer with him. He didn't drink well, and was drinking on an empty stomach. Drunk and forgetting things, Sun Cheng took advantage of his soberness, took out his wallet and counted it, and took 500 by the way and returned it directly to Lu Lan. Old Lu, don't say anything more than that, you can order some money. Lu Lan didn't order any more. He put it back in his pocket and asked him with some surprise, I didn't hear you clearly yesterday, how is your project going recently? I didn't see you in this half-a-month class, listening to Lu Kun, the project is already yellow. Lu Kun, he reminded Sun Cheng that he almost forgot that there are individuals who do not have settle accounts. Sun Cheng's eyes flashed, and the head shook the head. It's nothing. I used to invest everywhere. I didn't care too much about development. As a result, some people were greedy and busy, and the projects were almost yellow, but if they are gone, I might as well take it lightly. I changed the previous plan and made a new investment. I am going to do a big job. Quote. He didn't mention Lu Kun, but this roommate, who thought he could be close to him, almost didn't punish Sun Cheng this time. He just gave Xiao Hong the sudden murder and the mysterious invitation letter that came out of nowhere. Too much mind, he almost forgot Lu Kun. Today, Lu Lan wakes up again. Sun Cheng will make mistakes again. While chatting with him, he has already begun to think about how to clean up his former roommate. There is something in my heart, and he has no good drinking volume, and he no longer has the momentum of cattle drinking before, and the frequency of pickled vegetables has increased. After eating a meal for nearly an hour, Sun Cheng maybe was hungry and ordered a lot of dishes without even wasting it. Most of them went into his stomach. Lu Lan is no better than him. Although he has no classes in the afternoon, he is about to sit in the library soon after the graduation exam, so he got up and gave his leave after a little chat. Sun Cheng did not retain him, but before leaving, he entrusted him to say, Yes, old Lu, I may have been too busy recently to get away. Several other students in our class have borrowed my money. Everyone said, I will give back to Pandu's online red envelope in the past 2 days. Quote. Yes, I'm relieved about this. I will tell them in a moment. After Lu Lan agreed, he quickly left. He didn't stay anymore as soon as he walked. He quickly settled the bill. He walked out of the shop and stopped at the intersection and stopped a car. He was ready to move out. Rent a house. Brother Kun. It wasn't until someone was pushed hard that gave Lu Kun a startle that came back to his senses from the trance. Turning his face, it turned out to be roommate Li Meng. He twisted his neck, and then asked, "What's wrong, old fourth? Boss and I are going out for dinner, are you together?" Li Meng curled one's lip, asked him, but his face was no longer as passionate as before. Obviously, the last conversation with Sun Cheng made him also notice the changes in Lu Kun. "Dine, come on, I am not hungry yet." He touched his hungry stomach, but Lu Kun, who was pale, looked at the head, and said that his stomach was not very hungry, and he did not agree to go out with them. The boss on the side just wanted to persuade him again, but he pulled Li Meng, and he just clicked, "Well, let's go." And, as soon as the two left, there were no outsiders in the shared house. Lu Kun's already pale face could no longer be maintained, and it became more gloomy and ugly. "Why did the person die suddenly? 10,000 if the police went down and found me, what should I do?" With a whisper in his mouth, Lu Kun felt more and more afraid. Can't help buried his head on the table, his body trembling slightly. This world is really unfair. Long ago, Lu Kun actually felt this. He is trying harder than anyone, but was born into a poor family in a central province. Moreover, the poor family's situation not only did not improve with his admission to the domestic highest institution, Nandu University of Technology, but also became worse due to the high tuition fees of Nandu University of Technology. Originally, the family had hard work and subsidized some other work in the leisure time of the university. I also met several roommates who never gave up on my occasional help. The life of Nandu University of Technology has undoubtedly changed Lu Kun in the past few years. However, everything followed him until he met the girl. Her surname is Lu Tian, a girl who loves to laugh and has a sweet taste in her name. She is a professional junior with him. Accidentally met her in an activity in the department in the last year of the university. Since seeing the girl for the first time, Lu Kun felt like an electric shock, and her head was all her shadow. Later, with the encouragement of several roommates, he finally had the courage to confess to the other party. Although he did not get a positive response from the other party directly, he also obtained the qualification to pursue her. And then, it was hollowed out to pleas and countless romances. The family property was not thick, and he was quickly stretched out in this funny comedy called Love. Without the income from part-time work, everyone in the dormitory can give unlimited help. Time and time again, after owing debts to many people around him, he still indulged himself in the love comedy that the girl had woven for him, and finally made a mistake that he regretted. He followed loan shark in a code of student loan, borrowed money. I'm so damn. Whenever I think of it recently, Lu Kun has been able to help. Those who put the loan shark are all who, second-generation officials have it, the rich two-generation has it, and they CA and run the community. If these people have a little conscience, they will not run to put the loan shark. He's a tough character. Think about your experience, isn't it? At first he just borrowed a few thousand pieces from the student loan, and didn't want to accidentally touch the girl's birthday to change him a cell phone. After all he had done, he had to brace oneself and borrow another, didn't expect people are still very welcome, and immediately lent him money. So, time and time again, when Lu Kun finally realized that he was not good, he already owed 20,000 30,000 debts on the student loan. This money is no longer a college student, I can return it. Finally, it seemed to feel that his stupid pig had been fed. When it was time to slaughter, the student loan side quickly came to the door to force him to repay the debt. There is no longer the original gentle words and gentle attitude, and some only have threats and intimidation. After being beaten for the second time and threatening to call his home to let Lu Kun's parents repay his debt, he was forced to sign the new arrears drawn by the other party and borrowed a higher interest debt from the other party to repay the old debt. Until this time, it was too late to be afraid. Even in order not to let the family know that he was in trouble outside, Lu Kun had to be reduced to a student loan, running dog, looking for them in school and looking for oil and water. Pray. Our love will never come back after it. The suddenly ringing cell phone ringtone shocked Lu Kun, who was in fear in the shared house. After seeing who was calling the phone, he only felt cold and dared to cross the answer button. The ringtone lasted for more than 10 seconds, and finally ended. Lu Kun was slightly sighed in relief, just about to put the cell phone back in the distance, didn't expect next moment's cell phone ringtone rang again. After a glance at the phone that he really didn't want to receive now, he hesitated for a moment and finally didn't answer it. As a result, the ringtone of the phone ended again, and then unexpectedly, it rang again. After spending more than 10 minutes in this way, I found that the phone was still dialing in, but Lu Kun was afraid to turn it off, because this undoubtedly told the other party that he was beside the phone. It looks like he is going to hit me to pick up. After hesitating for a while, he finally connected the phone when the phone rang for the 7th time. Hey. You finally answered my phone. A young male voice with indifferent tone came from the cell phone. Lu Kun swallowed a spit and calmed down, but his voice was still a little trembling. Ah-chung, sorry, just washing clothes outside, what's the matter with me? Oh, replying to him was a more indifferent voice, so coldly he only felt like he was talking to a piece of ice. Lu Kun, who knew the character of the other party, and even doubted that his former roommate may have completely understood his own work. I do and know how to answer the call. Fortunately, there was a voice from the phone, but when he spoke there, he froze. I am going to ask you something, as for what you have in mind. See you in Heji Park after hours. Come or not to follow you, you have done something, you need to give me an explanation, do. The phone has been hung up there, but Lu Kun is holding his newly purchased 6's cell phone violently, only to feel cool from head to toe, from inside to outside. He understood that all the dirty things he had done were understood. How to do. Panic, guilt, and more uneasiness and embarrassment. He didn't know how to face this former roommate, and face this, he was almost pushed by his own friend in the fire pit. Whether to go or not, Lu Kun was troubled for a long time, and he didn't make a decision until 10 minutes passed in a hurry. Go with. Xiao Hong was dead. He went to Baitong Investment Company yesterday afternoon, but he was shocked by the fact that he knew from the police investigation. However, once he died, even if there were people on the 100 pass, he knew the loan he owed, but he knew how much he had done to apologize for the roommate's grievances, but no one else. This undoubtedly gave Lu Kun some fluke. He expected that even if Sun Cheng had noticed something, it would be difficult to find evidence. This is enough. When he picked up the cell phone and hurriedly sorted out his clothes in front of the mirror, he quickly left the shared house, stopped a car at the intersection, and hurried to the agreed park. Almost rushing to the place on the timeline, and just after entering the park, he saw a familiar face sitting on a seat not far from the park entrance. Isn't it Sun Cheng? In the end, there was a ghost in my heart. This would see him. Lu Kun could not help but stagnate, take a long and deep breath. He just squeezed a little smile, and walked to Sun Cheng. Ah-chung, sorry, I'm doing laundry. It's a little late. He was still harbor ulterior motives. He didn't dare to look directly at Sun Cheng. His eyes were obviously erratic. Sun Cheng got up, took out a pack of cigarettes from his pocket, and poured a dipper in his mouth. Walk with me. His voice couldn't hear any mood swings, but this bland attitude even made Lu Kun's heart flicker, and he subconsciously wanted to refuse. Ah-chung, if you have anything, just say it here. I'll have something later. You also know that you will have to reply and graduate to find a job immediately after the exam. There have been too many things recently. Quote. Say here. The smoke in Sun Cheng's mouth moved and looked at him calmly, with inquiries in his eyes. Yes, just say that. Lu Kun's eyes flickered for a while, and then he looked at him and said. Yes, you. With a spit of smoke from his mouth, Sun Cheng walked to him in a hurry, and suddenly raised his hand to his cheek. Slap, paw. This slap is really heavy and ruthless, not only immediately left 5 red fingerprints on Lu Kun's cheeks, but also forcefully made the corners of his mouth overflow with blood. Lu Kun was obviously blinded by this sudden slap, but when he saw Sun Cheng raise his head and gave him another slap, he immediately reacted and snapped. Sun Cheng, what are you doing? Why hit me? Why am I hitting you? You are really not a thing. Raising his hand, he slapped it again. When Lu Kun shone to hide, Sun Cheng saw hostility in his eyes. He lifted his foot against his stomach and kicked him to the ground. Bastard, I have known you for several years. Sun Cheng believes that he hasn't taken advantage of you and has never owed you anything, but what did you do with Tamar? I have no money to borrow, loan shark, not yet, just come to pit me, install Trojan horse in my computer, spread rumors behind, drive a wedge between. Except for a few of you, there is no 4th person in school who knows that I have an elder sister, still in Laurel webcast live singing. But how can there be photos of her on Xiao Hong's computer? Lu Kun really is not a thing. Don't you have a bottom line? Oh, there is a face to resist, right? Punching and kicking madly kicked. At first Lu Kun perhaps as by he hurt, actually struggling to stand up and hit him a few punches. It's a pity that Sun Cheng was already angry, and his hands were fierce and poisonous. He didn't leave any punching and kicking at all, and he was ashamed in his heart. After trying to resist a few punches, he was kicked to the ground again, and his arms were wrapped around his head. Shrink there, let him vent. Hey, don't fight, young man, you will have an accident if you fight again. Assistant, hello, call the police again. There are a lot of people hanging out in the park, and this is such a conspicuous place. Sun Cheng beat Lu Kun too loudly, and soon many people were around, and some enthusiastic people tried to persuade Sun Cheng don't fight anymore. After venting all the time, Sun Cheng couldn't help but dissipate a lot. He coldly looked at Lu Kun, who curled up on the ground and whispered and groaned, and then he stopped to adjust his clothes. Sun Cheng is blind, there is no way to know people, and you are a dog. It's hard to be a friend. How far can you roll me in the future, and then let me hear that you dare to give me a little action behind your back? No one can guarantee you. When he had finished speaking, he coldly snorted and never looked at Lu Kun again, turned around and walked out of the park without hurrying. Hey, Lu Lan, thank you for notifying everyone in the group. Well, I have paid the money back. I am not polite to you, I didn't give it too much. That's it, let's not talk about polite words again. My new project will be started in 2 days. How about, are you interested in coming to help me? In terms of time, I think you squeeze and move. Yes, I paid you 3 in the first 3,000 months of the monthly salary. You can pay 1 month's salary first. Come and help me, okay, then you think about it. Rubbing the bruised cheeks, Sun Cheng's brows slightly wrinkle. Today I have been following Safeguard in the murder of Xiao Hong and found that Nandu City Police Station turned on the personal computer in Xiao Hong's house in order to find more clues. As a result, they accidentally found hundreds of photos of young girls from Xiao Hong's computer. Among them, there are many photos of girls with fruit bodies holding ID cards and student loans. Safeguard has more than 100 photos. In the photos, I found a group of photos of a female anchor who was intercepted by Xiao Hong from a live broadcast platform. It was his elder sister, Yi Qi. Sun Cheng had suspected that Lu Kun probably owed a lot of money to the student loan because of the pursuit of junior sister. Later, when he owed more and was unable to repay, he had to make a bad heart and turn to the other party, found a new prey. Obviously, Sun Cheng was facing financial difficulties because of entrepreneurship. This guy didn't go offline. He must have told Xiao Hong that Sun Cheng had an elder sister as the anchor in Laurel webcast. As a result, the guy not only started the idea of continuing to blackmail Sun Cheng, it also seemed to have moved Yi Qi crooked. This discovery finally verified Sun Cheng's previous hunch and completely annoyed him. After a beating in the afternoon, fiercely vented his anger, and his mood had calmed down a lot. Although it is still unclear who died in the hand of Xiao Hong, but when he died Sun Cheng expected Lu Kun to have grudges and could not enter his eyes again. Looking at the mirror again, looking at the bruise on his face, Sun Cheng frowned again. I don't know if it's an illusion. When Lu Kun resisted hitting him before, he obviously ran out of full-strength punch and hit him on the cheek, but he didn't feel much pain. Now when I look at my cheeks that have been slightly swollen without any slight sense of feeling, Sun Cheng feels more and more that some strange changes have taken place in his body. Just wondering, suddenly the cell phone ringtone that had just been set aside rang. Sun Cheng glanced sideways to his head and couldn't help browsing slightly wrinkle. I saw a familiar name suddenly appear on the cell phone screen. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.